All right, I'd like to open the meeting for August 5th, 2025 at 4:36. Are there any public comments for closed session? No. Hearing none, we will adjourn to closed session.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 5th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. and we have language access. Welcome.
Thank you. We have interpretation into Spanish and ASL available through Zoom. Buenas tardes, tenemos interpretación al español disponible por medio de Zoom y aquí en persona, por si alguien gusta escuchar la presentación en español. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, please rise and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no announcements for closed session. And with that, that takes us to our student school board member report.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Carlos. For those of you who have not met, it is still summer, so I don't have too much to report on. But summer is winding down, so there have been some ASB meetings, the student body meetings for high schools, where students are generating ideas for the year and settling into their roles. There are also students across high schools who are returning to schools soon to pick up their schedules. So different names for for the different high schools. For San Marcos, it's the Royal Return, and then other than that, the first day of school is the 20th. So just about 15 days, just over 2 weeks, and yeah, I'm excited for that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, your superintendent report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. And yes, the summer is almost coming to an end, but not quite. Board members, last week, as you know, we rolled out or launched our new website. We've had positive feedback so far, but we also recognize that rolling out a website for 18 schools in a district office with several departments will result in some issues. So we want to please ask that anyone who sees any issues, go ahead and email us at info@sbunified.org, and we will make sure to address anything that you see that needs fixing. I also wanted to bring quickly, because it is summer, we have our amazing team of elementary principals here today, and I want to recognize all of them. If you guys can come to the front, this front row feels like really empty. We have Ms. Veronica Binkley, Valerie Galindo, Ariel Curry, Brian Naughton, Suzette McCormick, Daisy Ochoa. They are here to talk to you about, the elementary small test of change that was part of our results-based leadership program last year, which was a collaborative effort grounded in results-based leadership principles. Through disciplined use of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle and aligned site and district leadership, our elementary principals modeled high action, high alignment in pursuit of improved math outcomes for Hispanic Latino students. By leveraging these key competencies, including using ourselves as an instrument of change, collaborating across roles, and staying on the accountable side of the pathway, this team drove meaningful shifts in mindset, instructional practice, and student performance, which is evident by our early data outcomes. These early gains demonstrate what is possible when leadership is focused, data-informed, and deeply committed to equitable results. So I want to welcome our amazing elementary principals and Principal Valerie Galindo and Veronica Binkley to present all their great work. Please join me in welcoming them.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. Hello, board. It's great to be here, and Ms. Galindo and I have the privilege to walk you through a very productive small test of change process that we began last year. I will share our initial planning stages, and Ms. Galindo will then speak to our collective action and ultimately our outcomes. So I think I'm in charge of this, right? In October 2024, all principals embarked upon an aligned commitment using a results-based leadership tool called PDSA, or Plan, Do, Study, Act, to conduct a small test of change. This timeline represents the intentional steps we've taken from identifying our goal to implementing targeted actions aligned with results-based leadership and our single plans for student achievement. Each phase reflects our commitment to collaboration, data-driven leadership, instructional alignment, and equity. These actions build coherence, alignment, and set the foundation for deeper impact this upcoming year. The elementary team landed on a goal of increasing state testing proficiency in the Latinx subgroup of 10% a year over the next 3 years. These graphs represent the different cohorts of sixth grade across our district. There are 496 sixth graders in our district, and as you know, some of our schools have only one sixth grade classroom, and others have up to 3. Sorry. Oh, no, I probably went too far. Yeah, okay. One more time. Okay, I have a master's degree, I promise. Is that where I go? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. Okay, principals chose to focus on sixth grade data Latinx students based on our 23-24 CASP data. During this planning process, we committed to sending students to middle school better prepared in math. We knew that doing so would mean that all schools would commit to systemic change in math teaching and learning, as this goal would require a collective lift for all students. This graph represents the 2024 individual CASP elementary school data from our Latinx subgroup and their distance from standard in math. While still higher than the state average, we knew that we could do better by really focusing our collective goals and our agreements. Goodness gracious. Somebody, you're gonna, okay, thank you. Our plan contributed to not only shifts in teacher mindsets, but also in instructional practices. We all committed to district alignment. We focused on grade level math standards. We aligned math language routines. We tracked math fact fluency. And additionally, we used data walks to share and inform best practices. Ms. Galindo will now walk you through more detail about how this played out in the 24-25 school year.
Okay, so a big part of this that I think was the single most powerful part for me as a principal was how the RBL work that we were doing aligned to our site SIPSAs and all of our site SIPSAs, and really making those PDSAs, those Plan, Do, Study Acts, be part of the work that we were doing for our bigger SIPSA goal. And that was in the area of academics, which makes sense, right? We're trying to improve Hispanic Latino math achievement. So we really zeroed in on that. Most of this big lift was happening in our PLCs, which all of you know are happening on a weekly basis. So teachers were doing that plan, that do, that study act every single week in their site PLCs for math. At Roosevelt, that might look like you coming to your site PLC with an illustrative math checkpoint. How did the kiddos do with the learning target that day in math? Taking a look at your subgroups, even at a class level, and seeing, hey, when I introduced this learning target, how many students were meeting the standard or meeting the target, and how many are leaving meeting the target, right? Because it's one thing to introduce students to math concepts, but are they actually mastering them? So really looking at that at a granular level, at like a checkpoint, which is like an exit ticket, and also on like an actual illustrative math unit assessment. So we were monitoring throughout the year in that way at Roosevelt. And at Roosevelt, that was really important because Roosevelt has a very diverse student population, right? And so we want to be narrowing in on our subgroups where students aren't making the same progress as other students. And we know that both at Roosevelt and in our entire school district. A big component also came up for us with our professional development. In March, we devoted a chunk of that day to that UDL work. You might remember it because I know that was talked about here at the board meetings. We also spent our afternoon aligning math instructional practices to move the mark in math instruction. And specifically where teachers landed, we looked at language routines in math and agreed upon 2 language routines in our K-3 space and 2 language routines in our 4th through 6th grade space. And so that professional learning also happened and was a component of this RBL work. And last but not least, there was this collaborative leadership. So for me as a principal, really filling my own personal bucket of getting time to collaborate with my 8 colleagues and work together for a collective lift, not just at Roosevelt, but in Santa Barbara Unified School District as a whole. So how did we do that? We had to do some big shifts in our district culture. As Ms. Binkley shared, we had to normalize the accountability pathway, which is that yellow accountability pathway up in the top right corner, and being accountable for what we do, moving away from talk and into action. A big component was also in our data-driven leadership, using these data chats in a PLC, at an SLT, in a staff meeting, when we were gathering for our RBL work as a principal team, when we went in on our learning walks, taking notes through our observation, our qualitative data. What were we seeing when we walked into these classrooms? What was our Hispanic Latino students' experience? Another thing that really stood out to me as being very powerful is the junior high and high school PDSAs also aligned with the work that we were doing in elementary school. They were all focused on math and they were all focused on Hispanic Latino achievement. We started to really delve into who were we as a person, what was our role in this system, and moving away from just these personal relationships we have with folks, but also moving into what our role is, being accountable for that, and making sure that our focus on our work is data driven and moving from there. We did a lot of work within the 3 R's, which are centered on relationships, resources, and results, and making sure that we were starting our meetings with a joining activity, checking in, how are we doing, charting to see where are our resources going, and then last but not least, making sure that we were being accountable for our action commitments to move us to the results that we wanted. These were some of the principal reflections. Because we really centered our work in these results count competencies. So the first one was be accountable for equitable results. And that, as I already spoke to, was engaging in that data analysis during our PLCs. We were working for racial equity. All of us worked to present the single story to our staff, and a lot of questions and reflections came up for all of us from our staff, and we really had a great conversation about where to lead from there. You being humble enough to realize we use ourselves as an instrument of change, leading by example, operating on the accountable side of the accountability pathway and not blaming or waiting or hoping, and owning what actually happens in our results. Master the skills of adaptive leadership, giving the work back to our SLT leaders, and leading in vertically aligned staff meetings, K-3 and 4 through 6. And probably the most powerful one, I believe, was collaborating with others, right? Both as a principal team and at our own sites, working together to align our practices and build our own small test of change. We have consistent language, consistent discussions, not just with our own staff, but across these grade level teams that we support. So for example, I support 4th grade once a month in a district PLC, and we're all moving in the same way across the the district in all of our fourth grades on those Wednesdays. And, well, did it work? Did the small test of change work? I'm sure that's what you all want to see. So these are our preliminary math CASP results in math for our Hispanic Latino. It's all subgroups, but it's circled as our Hispanic Latino students. And you can see a comparison from 2023, 2024, 2025. And we wanted to see a 10% growth over 3 years. And as you can see, we already did 6% growth in 1 year. So the goal would be in the next 2 years, by 2027, to get that extra 4%. And I think the wonderful part of this work is we can make a new PDSA and make a new goal based on the growth that we already saw. And you can also see sixth grade growth distance from 3. From 2024 to 2025, many of us had a big jump in our Hispanic Latino subgroup. And I do want to emphasize that this isn't work that just happens in sixth grade, right? Because sixth grade is a culmination of our TK5 program. So one of the biggest reasons why we picked sixth was we were really going to be working on all of our grade levels to see that achievement shift in sixth. And the added benefit is they go to junior high more ready and able to access the grade level content that they're being offered. So thank you all. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Munoz?
Yeah, excellent presentation. Very exciting, and I'm looking forward to this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dolly.
Student School Board Member, Mr. Vasquez.
Hi, thank you. And I think this work is really important. So, thank you for doing this. You did say at the end that we were looking for a 10% increase over the 3 years. And I'm not sure if maybe I just wrote this down wrong, but I saw on an earlier slide that it said 30% in the next 3 years.
Oh,
Maybe
you're
that's a
right.
different-
10% each. Is it
10% a year.
10% a year?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke, everyone. Good catch.
I just want to say one thing. As she talked about the unintended consequences, right? So at Harding, what we did is we leveraged the mastery in our school, and we had a couple of grade levels that were excellent, amazing math teachers in small group instruction and differentiating learning and everything. And so we assigned them to work with their, like sixth grade worked with fourth and fifth, and third grade worked with first and second. And this was all for the PDSA. But what happened was, through all of that and tracking of our foundational skills, is our school increased almost 14% in math alone this year. So this is work that is changing the way things are in the classroom. It is changing the way people think about working together and sharing each other's strengths and our standards and our practices as well. So, yeah.
Ms. Caffrey?
I'll just say thank you so much for all of this work, and I really appreciated seeing the entire process from the planning to the outcomes and how well everyone worked together. And so thank you very much for this presentation. I thought it was really informative.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Mann.
I also wanted to say thank you for the presentation and for the hard work of a small test of change that is critical. This is the way that we make progress, to take this now and expand it and say this is working. And I would expect we're going to want to see what it looks like in the next year and the next year. I'm going to go back to one of my pet peeves for a moment and talk about the difference between percent and percent points. So if you look at 32% in 2 years ago and 35, that's actually a 9.1% increase. From 32 to 35 is 9.1% increase. It's only 3 percentile points increase. So I'm just saying that your goal, as stated, came pretty close. And then also saying it's just an area to be very careful of in terms of the difference between what percentile growth is and growth by percentage. Thank you. And I also say that one of my favorite times in my career was the time that I was an elementary school principal, because I knew that at that point it made a bigger difference in almost any kind of leadership role that exists in the district. And I was saying that thank you all for the dedicated work on this.
I'll echo those thoughts and just say thank you for fully engaging in the work, in the RBL work. It shows in the results, obviously, but it also shows in how you all talk about the work that you do. We got to do the school safety plan, small group discussions, and and it came through in those discussions, talking about the collaboration and talking about the coherence that you all had across school sites. And I think taking what is working at one school site and talking about how you can expand it across our school system, it was amazing. And I think this is just a highlight to that. And so I just want to thank you for fully engaging in that work.
So for the audience and board members, we know that for too long in education, we want or look for the magic bullet, the one thing that's going to make the change, right? And I think the learning for us in this work, and the reason it's called a small test of change, is that we want to know that what we're going to do works before we invest a lot of time and money and resources in buying that shiny thing that we may call the it, right? And I think that this competency and leadership of we are the self as the competency for the agent of change was really lived out. And I will be asking junior high to come and do the same thing, to talk about their small test of change. They did this presentation at the end of the seminars, and I know that the other principals were surprised to see 9 elementary principals coming to agreement for 9 different schools. When junior high we have 4, and in high school we have 4, and they all went through their own process, right? Because they're all running distinct schools with distinct staff, and they have to take all of that into consideration while they try to collaborate. So I could not be more proud of our elementary principals, and thank you so much for being here. You're released. Enjoy the rest of your summer day. So we're going to go back to the my superintendent report. And if we can, in this same theme of alignment, one of the things we launched this summer is to create some role clarity. As you heard from the principals, is really important. So as part of the new website launch, you'll notice we have all of these in our website. We've been bringing in the administrative assistants and the office managers to meetings here in the boardroom, and explaining some of these concepts to them, so that as they're supporting their principals when they go back to school, or their teachers creating agendas and such, we want them to know a little bit about the work that's being talked about here. We've talked to them also. An administrative assistant and office manager really is a front-facing, really important key person in our school district, and often we overlook their importance in leadership. We talked to them about the safety plans as part of our culture of care. We talked about, changes to maybe the field trip forums or board priorities, the use of data. We showed them the data walk so that they can also see some of the work we're doing. We agreed for the need for consistent uniformity in how we present our organizational charts, our directories, the roles that exist in our school system as we launch the new websites, so that we can all have clarity of the work that we're doing. So I just want to point out that we're doing some of that work with them, and appreciate our administrative assistants and our office managers. And we will continue to do that with them throughout the year, a couple times a year. So if you go to a school and you see an office manager, administrator, please thank them as well. Next, I want to talk about last week's Leadership Institute. We really had a very strong start to our school year with the annual July Leadership Institute. This is the one chance that we get to kick off the year strong with all of our leaders, lay out our priorities so that every student can achieve these equitable results in academics and well-being. The goal was to set the 4 priorities that the board has already talked about, validating your priorities of literacy, math, alignment of assessment, academics and achievement, belonging and community. Some of the topics that were included in that institute were the release of the newly adopted EML master plan, as you know, the instructional framework, the culture of care, and what are we going to do in light of the fear that many of our immigrant families have in our community. We talked to them about some of the plans we're going to make, how we're going to support everybody. And so I look forward to seeing the fruits of the work. This week and the next week, I will be meeting individually with each principal to also talk to them about some of their work and how they're planning the work after this Leadership Institute. Next, I want to wrap up to share that ETS really works the hardest during the summer, right, Mr. Cooper? It's not only about preparing for the new school year, but really preparing many of our iPads, our technology. Staff, maintenance, and others have been busy cleaning classrooms, preparing kitchens, and ETS, of course, is getting us ready. I want to share this short video for you to take you to the behind-the-scenes look at some of the work specifically for ETS that has been going on to prepare for the year.
Summertime is a very busy time for ETS. Here in the office, our data team does the end-of-year data evaluations. They've got rollover from the end of the school year into the summer session, out of the summer session, into the new school year. They're very busy. Our systems and our network team, they're doing configurations for our network. They're working with vendors on our new platforms and getting things rostered, and they're making modifications to keep us safe in cybersecurity. This year, we received over 3,000 devices that all need to be unboxed and inventoried and configured, ready for distribution. And as you will see, our team is out at the school sites. They go to every single elementary school site, touch all the devices and all of the school sites, making sure that our devices and our platforms are ready to go for the school year.
When the summer starts, is the busiest time of the year for our department. We collect devices from students, teachers, and staff.
We typically start with the senior collection of all the graduating class for the year. In this particular project, we're working on student devices. The process for that is we bring them in after they're sorted, we get them fully charged, and then we move on to thunder syncing them, which is basically removing all of the student data, making sure there's no student content on there.
Computers, they get restored. They get updated to the latest operating system. So when our new teachers come in or new staff come in, they're going to have a nice workable computer with the latest operating system.
Tech Equity, provides a device to every single student, making sure that we can go ahead and serve the community like we should. We want to make sure that everybody is ready to go on the first day of school, whether it is a student or a staff member. Everybody is just ready to either provide for our community or be ready to learn.
I want to thank everyone here in the district office, Summit School Sites, who dedicate their summers to getting schools ready. And it would not be possible to launch a new school year without everybody's hard work and dedication. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. That takes us to our next item, which are public comments for items that are not on today's agenda. Mr. Banning.
These all for open comment? Okay. We have several cards. First, this is public comment. First is Sherry Ray, followed by Andrew Salzman, and oh, I'm sorry. These are E1. My apologies. These are okay. So there's only one, it looks like, for D8, and that's Brianna Serrato.
Thank you. Never Give Up, Gwendolyn Strong Foundation. Hello, my name is Brianna Serrato, pronouns she, her, ella. I am a former SBUSD student, mom to 2 SBUSD Latino special education students, and a parent representative on numerous school and district committees. I am here again to advocate for the special education students of the district. Last meeting, when I had asked if, with regards to the board policy of adding a qualifier for AOK for students with IEPs to have a priority over just no priority at all. The response was from the district was that it's not a current requirement from ELOP. And so I know that EdCode does not have a requirement for students with disabilities to have a priority placement for AOK, but that doesn't mean that the district doesn't has to. EdCode, sorry, I didn't have time to type it all up. It's a minimum, so it's not that EdCode states that they can't have a priority. It's just it's not included along with the McKinney-Vento students, the EML students, and so again, asking for that to be a priority because AOK is so difficult to get into. Students with disabilities, it's really hard to get them into public programs, and transitions are difficult for them. So again, asking for that one minor, small thing of at the bottom of the priority list if they could get a slight priority. Also, the Literacy Vision 24-25 handout given at the Literacy Screener public meeting states, all of our students can and will read accurately and fluently by 3rd grade. I brought this up to the board previously, and I'm still waiting to know what is the district doing for those students that are not reading by 3rd grade. I will again ask, will the new dyslexia screener be provided to the students outside of the state mandated K-2 level who are not fluent readers? Again, yes, the mandate is K-2. It doesn't mean that the district can't go above and beyond for all of the students. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it for public comment.
Thank you. Now we'll turn it back to the board for board comments and correspondence. Who would like to go first? Mr. Banning.
I just want to say thank you to the tech department and communications for the website update. I think it's a great framework. It's looking good, and what surprised me so positively is I hadn't thought through and didn't realize that this same kind of frame is going to be on every single school's district. So that consistency of communication and consistency of information from school to school, parents can find it in the same place. It's all designed that way. So just kudos for important and timely work. Thanks.
Ms. Caffrey.
So I would just say that I am excited for our August 16th governance meeting. Our elementary principals talked about the accountability pathway and mindset and being agents of change. And I feel like as a board, we have really decided to go into this governance meeting to talk about how we too can be agents of change, continue to be agents of change, but use our board meetings as effectively as possible. So I just want to say that I'm looking forward to that meeting, which is coming up. And as with all of our special meetings, it is open to the public. So everyone is welcome to join us.
Any other board comments and correspondence? Okay. I just wanted to echo the thoughts to our ETS team. Revamping a website is no easy task. It takes many, many months of work, and to do it across the school district, as Mr. Banning said, for each of our school sites as well on their websites, is a big lift in addition to all of the other work that you all do to support our district. So thank you, Mr. Cooper, if you could relay that information to your team. And Ed Zucchelli, yes. Oh, Ed, thank you. And ETS for doing all the work this summer to get us ready for a new school year. Thank you again to our elementary school principals for being here and all the hard work that they've put in. One last comment is we have an update on the Parma School project on the east side. It's, for those that don't remember, it's a housing project that we're working with the city housing authority on. We just cleared a really big hurdle, which is we got approval from the Architectural Board of Review, which is no small feat. So unanimous approval, and we now move further on into the process, and we have a great partner. I will bring architectural drawings to my next board correspondence. And with that, we have about 20 minutes to our time certain item, so we will probably have to interrupt this next item, but we're going to get started on E1, the Letters Professional Learning for Cohort 2 as part of SB Unified's multi-year literacy improvement plan. Welcome, Ms. Alvarado.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, President Gabe Escovedo and Dr. Maldonado. Today's report, before I get started, I want to share just some thoughts about this work that I'm about to present. Transforming literacy across our district is a journey, one that demands a shared vision, collaboration, and the collective efforts of educators, as you saw today with our elementary principals, in a community at every level to accelerate student outcomes. Our work aligns with the district and board priorities on literacy, math, alignment of instruction, assessment, and achievement, and belonging and community. In 2021-22, data revealed that we had a foundational literacy need in Tier 1 instruction. This became the catalyst for us launching a multi-year improvement strategy focused on equity and access. It wasn't a significant lift at first because we had to do certain things in small steps. This was also based on Dr. Maldonado's vision of continuous improvement because there was an urgent need. Our grade 3 students, as you can see here, were meeting or exceeding standards at 39% and 4th grade students at 37%. This is the lens that guides all the work that we do at SB Unified through equity, wellness, climate, and culture. It centers on students, teachers, and support staff with a focus on strong instruction. It is grounded in the belief of every child, every chance, every day. On the right side, you will see a 5-step model that has driven our systemic change that has multiple steps. It is a continuous improvement process, and you will see some of these icons throughout the presentation of where each of these steps have taken place. We identified the need to set the direction. As you can see here, and throughout the presentation, you will see the multi-year steps and several things that have happened overall. We identified the need. In 22-23, we utilized Teaching Reading Playbook, and Orton Gillingham was the area of focus. In 23-24, we adopted a new curriculum, and we also embarked on the Letters Cohort number 1 to train our teachers. In 24-25, we focused on targeted interventions with foundational literacy in K3, support for EMLs, support for students with learning differences, and a focus also on universal design for learning, and we had an introduction last school year. The last language arts curriculum, as you all know, was in 2007. So in 2023 was the curriculum, the committee, we formed the committee. Year 1 was in 23-24 of implementation. Year 2 we just completed, and we are about to start the year 3 of implementation of our new curriculum of Foundations in Wit and Wisdom, with a focus on our early literacy has been our area of focus. And I think that's what's given us pretty good results, and also leverage and a focus on professional learning, as you will see in a few slides. Key actions driving literacy improvement throughout our district has been the delivery of high quality Tier 1 instruction. That has been our focus. Investing in ongoing professional learning, using assessments to inform instruction, collaborating through professional learning communities, as you heard the principals talk about the work that was happening there and happens throughout the year, and providing students with Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. Our professional learning happens at all levels, not just at the teacher level. It is key that we provide the support the teachers need in order to provide the services in Tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction for our students. We implemented language arts curriculum as well as letters, Cohort 1. We engaged in professional learning communities, site and district, and we had a very specific focus on the 4 questions, which you will see in just a minute. Instructional coaches focused on implementing letter strategies because they were also letters trained, the majority of them. We had leading coaching cycles from our coaches at each of our sites, and supported foundational literacy K3. We also deepen our language arts curriculum knowledge through our coaches by providing them additional professional learning aside from what the teachers were already getting in K-6. And for our principals, they receive targeted literacy coaching in K-2 at 2 of our sites that needed the most support. So we do also intervention at school sites with professional learning overall. Principals lead language arts curriculum implementation to ensure that it's happening. And they participate in guided observations for leaders, which means we are doing, besides the learning walks, they're also doing specific guided observations to ensure that our curriculum is being implemented and to observe for areas of growth and areas of strength and really provide that support that is additional support that is provided at the school site by the coaches, by the principals, and also identifying the needs so that we at the district can provide that also, that support and intervention. This is a snapshot of what happens in the professional learning communities. You may have heard from you heard it from our principals, you've heard from all of us talk about professional learning communities. What are they? We at the district, in our district, we have district-wide PLCs and we have site-based PLCs. We meet 5 times a year for district-wide PLCs. Our focus is on ELA and math priorities. We use curriculum-based data. We analyze data that is specific to the curriculum that the teachers are teaching in the classroom that was chosen by the teachers, led by principals and coaches. So, you heard Ms. Galindo mention that she oversees 1 grade level. So every principal oversees 1 grade level that is across the entire district, not just her school. Supported by district leadership, and we use feedback to refine our future sessions. Site-based PLC meet twice monthly. They focus on individual student needs, led by PLC lead teachers and supported by coaches and principals. So this gives you an idea of what happens in those areas. On the right-hand side, where you see the list of, it's hard to see, but the flyer, this is where everyone goes. We go to different school sites. We have leads in every group. A coach and a principal are always leading those grade level. At the top, you see the circle. These are the questions. These are the questions that guide our work through PLCs. The four essential PLC questions are, what should students know and be able to do? How will we assess progress towards mastery? How will we respond when students struggle? How will we respond when students excel? And so those are the key questions that we ask when we are in our PLCs. This pyramid shows our tiered system of support. This is Tier 1 is a strong grade level instruction for all students, and it is the foundation. When Tier 1 is effective, fewer students need Tier 2, which is targeted in small groups, or Tier 3, which is intensive support. Students with the greatest needs will receive an intervention from the most qualified person. Is it perfect right now? It's not. We need to improve our practices in our tiered support. Students should be receiving and will be receiving that intervention by their teachers. A strong Tier 1 reduces the need for intervention and ensures resources are focused where they matter most. As I said, Tier 1, all students. In Tier 2 is additional support, and it has targeted interventions based on assessment data and for students needing extra help. For Tier 3, its intensified support is individualized, intensive support for students who do not respond to Tier 2 intervention. One other area I want to share with you is the dedicated time that we have. As of last year, every elementary school has a dedicated time that we call Power Hour for intervention, for specific intervention outside of the Tier 1. The supplemental resources that we use mainly are Lexia Core 5, Lexia English, and Geodes. And the evidence-based instructional practices are based on foundational literacy skills, Orton Gillingham, and letters. And when the students are at the Tier 2 level, and there is still a need for students to receive intervention, we have been working this past year on an online SST process, and we now have a handbook to provide that support for our staff. For the 25-26 school year, we are launching the SST handbook that provides guidance to ensure alignment of the SST process across our district. The handbook is at the bottom. You'll see a picture, and then we have a diagram which is within the handbook. This is to provide academic, behavior, social-emotional, and social-emotional support for students. Students who are not responding to supports in place, we have a referral process in place that is the SST. It is relevant data is used and collected to provide and inform the team, the SST team, when we meet. An action is developed during that process, and we begin the SST cycle to implement and monitor throughout this process. This is just a quick snapshot of what we do when a student needs additional support in any area that is academic, behavior, social, emotional. We understand that assessments are a key component of improving literacy to monitor student progress. Our assessments are aligned to standards, ensuring that every data point contributes to our goal of improving student student learning outcomes in literacy. Our focus in 22-23 was on strengthening the use of progress monitoring assessments such as STAR. In 23-24, we implemented foundational literacy assessments and data chats. In 24-25, we focus on the alignment of assessment continuum and the universal screener that is coming up for the 25-26 school year. As you all know, we have a new universal screener called M-Class that is mandated by the state for K-2 students, but that doesn't mean we are not supporting our students in the other grade levels. For M-Class, it is, I'm going to speak for it for a second, and then I have more information for other grade levels. It is recommended, it was on the list of recommended screeners by the state. Our universal screener committee selected M-Class as our universal screener for SB Unified, and the board adopted in 2025. As of right now, we have 4 out of 59 K-2 teachers who have been trained during this summer, and we're working on the other opportunities that we have, multiple opportunities. Site coaches, 4 out of 9, principals, 2 out of 9, and district instructional support specialists, 2 out of 2. Our goal is to have 100% trained by September 2025 before we start our first universal screener. We have a feedback loop of continuous improvement. We gather feedback from teachers at professional learning during the professional learning opportunities, and we also have feedback through coaching. We have formal and informal observations by principals. We have coaching cycles that are supported by coaches, and we have learning walks that are supported by site and district. And our focus has started from building trust in those learning walks to informing professional learning. And now we are moving into aligning our learning walks to the Danielson framework and our instructional framework. The Danielson framework, as you can see on the right-hand side, that is a tool that is used for teacher evaluation, and it's focused on 4 areas, 4 domains: planning and preparation, classroom environment, instruction, as well as professional responsibilities. We use data to guide our decisions. We focused on assessments in 23-24. We utilized data chats, which what that means is we were meeting with principals to look at the DIBELS and BPSTs, which are assessments to determine where our students are at in terms of their literacy needs. And that was K through 6 students. In 25-26, we will focus on the new K2 universal screener, but we will not forget about the other grade levels because we will continue to use the assessments we started last year for the other grade levels. We can't do this alone. Family and community engagement is important. We engage parents through our parent-teacher conferences to inform our parents of the progress that our students are making on a regular basis. We have a midpoint notice, and what that is a way to inform parents when a student is not meeting standards and the interventions that are being provided for the student. We have open house, back to school nights, and literacy moves for preschool students to engage our parents through that process in connecting what happens in the classroom to the community. We promote literacy through site literacy events, volunteer programs, and other events such as the 3rd Annual Poetry Contest. We are seeking funding for literacy professional learning, and we have been supported throughout the years by different organizations such as the Santa Barbara Education Foundation. These are just a few organizations that have supported our efforts of the many, many different organizations in our community that we are very proud and very grateful for their support. This leads us to the letters. This is the reason why we're presenting all of this information. Professional learning is a key component in helping us improve literacy across the district. I have a proposal, we have developed a proposal for a letters trainer model so that we can have, our goal is to have 100% of our teachers trained in K-6 with letters. Letters is a professional learning that is a 2-year program. And it is a graduate level program. It's not just a one-day type of program. It is extensive and it requires time and a lot of investment, as well as investment of time, but investment of funds. Currently, we have, our goal number 2 is to implement the trainer models, and we have 25% of our K-3 teachers who have been trained, and only 5% of our 4 through 6 teachers. We have trained some coaches, 67%, and our instructional support specialists who are leading at the district level and supporting the sites, 100% of them, 2 of them are have been trained. The model is multi-year, and if you see, look at the right, 25-26, we would start with cohort number 2 because we have completed 1. Cohort number 2 and 3 would be in this school year with units 1 and 4, and the total cost for that with the trainer models along with cohort 2 and 3 would be a total of $348,718. That includes facilitation of the trainers that would train in future years for other cohorts. And the total cost of the multi-year to train all of our teachers K-6 and the trainer models would be $762,658. The Santa Barbara Ed Foundation has supported this effort with funding cohort number 1, and we're currently seeking the support to continue with cohort number 2 and future cohorts as well. And that is, I'm in the process of completing a grant and getting some information back, whether we have additional funds for this. But the continuation of cohort number 2 right now is something we had allocated as a district already and committed. So that's already in place. Lastly, I just want to share the information that I just provided. The journey that we have been on has not been easy. It has not been perfect, and we have made mistakes along the way. We have had struggles, but we had significant successes, and we are changing mindsets. We are changing the way we do things, the way we teach, the way we support our students and provide that intervention. Our data is starting to show and does show some of that progress. Overall, so the graph on the right has the grade levels at the bottom, and each color is a different year, school year. Overall, ELA performance improved across most grade levels from 22 to 2025. Grade 4 showed the most significant year-over-year growth, rising from 37% meeting or exceeding standards to 49% meeting or exceeding standards. Every school showed ELA growth in at least one grade, with gains ranging from 5% to 40% for students meeting or exceeding standards. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. You timed it perfectly. We are going to break for our time certain item, and then we will come back for questions and public comment. So with that, it's 6:30, so we will go to the action agenda and our 6:30 time certain item, approval of financial committee members. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Maldonado for this item.
Thank you. So board members, we do have 2 members of our community that have been recommended for the Finance Committee, and as we decided, we will be having your nominees give a 3-minute presentation or speak to us for 3 minutes. I'm not sure which of you wants to go first. I know we have one person on Zoom. Is Mr. Voigt on Zoom?
Yes. Hello, Chair Maldonado.
Hello. Welcome. We'll just start with Mr. Voigt because he is on Zoom. Go ahead, Mr. Voigt.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chair Maldonado and board members. I'm honored to be considered for this role on the Finance Advisory Committee. I thought it would make sense just to provide some background on my expertise and my experience. I'm a dual major, economics and mathematics from Claremont McKenna College, a chartered financial analyst as well. Been in the financial business for 30 plus years, my first 12 years as an analyst, first with JP Morgan and then for various real estate hedge funds. For the last 20 years, I've been the portfolio manager for various real estate hedge funds. And, you know, my work, my daily work, and this is what I've been doing for 30 years, it's financial analysis of corporations, of their financial statements, of their budgets, their forecasts, their business plans. You know, I've been able to see what's been done well and what are best practices, and then what has failed. I also do have experience on the nonprofit side. For a time there, I was treasurer of the Hope School Educational Foundation, also board member of Violent Crime Survivors, as well as Youth Inclusive. Just so in terms of background, in terms of my family, so 2 daughters at San Marcos High School. Chloe is a sophomore, or will be in a few weeks. Naomi is a junior. I myself am a product of the public school system and believe in the public school systems. I was in San Diego doing that. I love Santa Barbara. I love the school district and really want to be of assistance to the board, and in particular as it comes to financial matters. That was brief and quick, but I thank you for your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Voigt. Board members, we can pause here and have any questions from the board members, and then we'll introduce our next candidate. With that, we will bring up, I believe it's Ms. Pereira, who is here in person. Welcome. Just like.
Can you hear me? Oh. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Diana Pereira, and I have been a Santa Barbara resident for 30 years. I have 2 sons who go to Dos Pueblos, and they love their high school experience, very much so. I also went to UC Santa Barbara. It's where I graduated in business economics, so I've been here a long time. And then I got a law degree as well at Santa Barbara College of Law locally. My heart is all Santa Barbara. Professionally, I've been in finance and operations for over 25 years, about 20 years of those as CFO, managing organizations, both small and large, so budgets from $5 million to $170 million. Most of that time was in 2 different industries, wealth management space, so also hedge funds and private equity, and then oddly in federally funded organizations, which is an odd mix, but I've done both. 15 years ago, I started a company called Balance Financial Management. I was recognizing that our local nonprofits and smaller businesses didn't have the support they needed to really grow. Finance is something that for some people is rocket science. For me, I love numbers. They jump out the page, they tell me a story. It's part of my DNA at this point, but that's not everybody. So Balance started, again, 15 years ago, and we provide finance, accounting, HR, payroll, operations, and technology support for our community. Mostly nonprofits and foundations, as well as several socially impact-oriented companies. My deep expertise, I mentioned, also includes the government cost accounting and federally funded. And so I understand the responsibility of managing public funds and the complex reporting requirements around it. It is really different than regular accounting. I know it's hard to find team members for my company because it's a different way of looking at things when all of a sudden you have to balance things to the penny and it gets rejected because it's 14 cents off. And the compliance requirements around it. So my legal expertise perhaps helps with some of that as well and understanding it. personally, as a mom, I love our kids, our community. I serve mostly on boards because of my kids. Been on Wilderness Youth Project for 4 years. I was with a sailing organization, the family one, not the professional one, with the local school, and then currently with Octobots, which raises money for the robotics program at Dos Pueblos, which hopefully this year will bring a blue banner for the school. I'm open for questions. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. If selected, I will roll up my sleeves as I always do and offer support in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so good to meet you. I want to thank both Ms. Pereira and Mr. Voigt for also being parents of our school district and trusting us with your students. That means a lot to me as superintendent. So thank you so much for your remarks. And board members, do you have any questions for Ms. Pereira?
I actually nominated Mr. Voigt, so I didn't have any questions for him, but I will ask Ms. Pereira a question, and it's very simple. What is your interest in being on this school committee? I know you have children in the district, but what is your thinking behind it? It's a big commitment.
It is. So I have a weakness. My weakness is I always say yes. Everyone knows that about me. My husband, to this day, it's his one grievance with being married to me is I'd always say yes. I'm not a person that sits on the beach or scrolls on social media at night. I find something to do with my time. Even in my daily work, I can't work for a paycheck. I can't work for a job. I have to feel personally, for my soul, that I'm creating impact, that there's some meaning behind what I do, and I feel like I can make a difference here. I have a lot of experience. Seeing the situation with the budget, and when there's layoffs, it bothers me. And I'm like, oh, if there's a way we could balance it, I'm sure there's a way to be more efficient. I'm sure there's something somewhere. Can we avoid layoffs? Can we expand the school? Can we create a thriving environment where it's not always we got to pinch pennies here and pinch pennies there? And that's what I'm really good at. And so I feel I can make a difference. So let's hope I can.
Thank you for that response.
Okay. I'll turn it back to the board for any discussion, or we can entertain a motion. Dr. Beal.
I'll just make a comment. So both of our nominees have business experience, and the district has a very large budget, and we have a lot of programs to balance and obligations to meet. So I will certainly admit to the fact that I have very little big business experience. So I do like having nominees who've had experience with larger businesses. And I like that as equally as I like the fact that they have children in the district, because as we heard from Ms. Pereira and I heard from Mr. Voigt, their heart is in this. Not all these problems are easily solvable, but I think you have to have that compass of benefiting the students, which as board members, that is really supposed to be our compass, is benefiting the students. So I feel that both candidates are qualified and that their hearts are in the right place for this position.
Thank you. Other comments or a motion?
Yeah.
I think Mr. Manning has a comment.
I just want to make sure I got the names. I would like to move to approve the two nominees for the board finance committee. I apologize for not having the names right in front of me, Mr. Voigt and Mrs.
Pereira.
Pereira. So I would, with pleasure, move for approval and say thank you for your interest and willingness to step into a very important and hopefully very productive role.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you all for agreeing to serve on our finance committee, and we are quite fortunate to have people with your resumes join us. So thank you.
Right. Thank you all.
Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mr. Voigt, Ms. Pereira. You'll be hearing from myself and Mr. Tedeschi, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, in the coming days. I do want to inform the board and the public that we have selected our principals who will be on the Finance Committee. It will be Ms. Clancy Chu-Merritt, Principal for Goleta Valley Junior High School, and Mr. Dare Holdren, the Principal at San Marcos. I have also heard from SBTA that their representative will be York Shingo, their SBTA president. I'm waiting to get a name from Mr. Ken Rivas, but we have an upcoming meeting with him. Carlos can be our student board member, but he and I still have to discuss this. As you know, this is only his second meeting, because we also have a student rep that can be on the Finance Committee. And with that, we're almost there with fulfilling all the roles for the Finance Committee.
Okay, so that closes out F2, and we're going to go back to E1, Letters Professional Learning for Cohort 2 as part of Santa Barbara Unified's multi-year literacy improvement plan. And we are going to open up public comment for this item. Mr. Banning.
We have Sherry Ray, followed by Andrew Salzman, followed by Patty Marks.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Ray. I'm a member of the Santa Barbara Reading Coalition and the director of the Dyslexia Project. I first just want to mention that I'm disappointed that in the presentation that the word science of reading was not used, and the importance of the letters training goes directly to the fact that this new curriculum requires intensive knowledge that many of our teachers have never received. So that's the important framework for why letters is so important. I want to read you also from Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, about what literacy is and why that is so important. Literacy is, he wrote, along with education in general, a basic human right for everyone, everywhere. Literacy unlocks the door to learning throughout life, is essential to development and health, and opens the way for democratic participation and active citizenship. Literacy is a platform for democratization and a vehicle for the promotion of cultural and national identity. It is the road to human progress and the means through which every man, woman, and child can realize his or her full potential. And I'd like to read to you a little bit about what happens. All of our kids start out as hopeful kindergartners, excited to learn to read, but only half of them actually do. Let's hear from some of them and the words that they have said to me. When it's hard to read, every school year feels like 3. I know I'm smart, but I just can't read, so then I think I'm dumb. The teachers call it SSR, silent sustained reading. I call it sit down, shut up, and pretend to read. But mostly I look out the window and wish I was somewhere else. Reading makes me feel like a piece of meat that they're trying to tenderize, but I'm already burning up on the barbecue. I want to be a scientist, but I don't know if I can be if I don't know how to read. Sometimes when I do math problems with lots of words, I can't understand, and I just want to cry. I feel so stupid for so long because I can't read. The shame of leaving my classmates to go to the special class is a lot. And when the teacher asked me to read what was on the board, I told her I have some trouble with my eyes and I couldn't see the words too well. I didn't want to sound stupid and say that I can't actually read the words. These are the words of actual people who did not learn to read in Santa Barbara Unified School District. I've been standing at this or other lecterns like this one in this room for the past 20 years. And I'm really getting tired of this, and I'm hoping that we can accelerate this plan for what we're going to do and come up with some more creative solutions than waiting another 3 years before our teachers are trained. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Salzman, followed by Patty Marks and Brianna Serrato.
Can you pull it up a little bit so it's closer? We'll stop the clock. And press the button.
Better?
There we
Better.
go.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. So I didn't have time to prepare anything. I'm just going to speak off the cuff and directly to all of you. There have been, a lot of words around goals and visions and progress, but the actions that have been taken and the progress that has been made is not there. There's a sign up there that says, "We prepare students for a world that is yet to be created." I would add, our job is to prepare students for a world that's yet to be created. And we've got generations now who are not prepared with basic reading skills as well as basic math skills. A lot of this has to do with we're just not focusing on the priorities and putting our investments behind those priorities. There are a lot of facets to it, of course. I spoke to Hilda with the Reading Coalition back in 2023, and we talked about, let's have performance targets, let's have goals, and let's have accountability. And the response that I got back then was, the teachers union is going to push back on that. Well, we've got to have a much better relationship between the superintendent and the teachers union. We need to get, when we talk about letters, all of the principals should be trained in letters, because they, as Gabe has said in conversations that he and I have had, they are the mayors of the school. And as the mayors of the school, they are in a very strong position through the collaborations that were talked about earlier, through alignment, to start getting things done in a meaningful way. The science of reading has been proven to be effective, and when there's a focus on it, and focus means that we shouldn't be having to look outside for $500,000 to get additional training. If we had focused our budget, $200 million plus, on our primary priority, as discussed a few months ago, which was we're going to do literacy, we're going to do math, we're going to do assessments, we're going to do a culture of belonging. I think those are the four. Literacy was number one on the list. And here we are, kind of feeling good about the fact that whether it's percentages or percentage points, the numbers are in the 30s and in the 40s. And the numbers over a period of time, I got 37 seconds, the numbers over a period of time have not dramatically improved. I mean, we should be at 60% or 70%. In March of 2023, we approved the curricula at $1.7 million, Wit and Wisdom and Foundations, and we said we were going to do training as is required for the teachers to be effective, and yet 16% roughly of teachers 2 years later have been trained in letters. So why are we going to believe a statement from Denise that says we want to have 100% trained in letters K through 6 by 2028? If the teachers are not on board, if the principals are not on board, if there isn't a collaborative methodology to make that happen, then this is just another number that we threw out that's not happening. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Patty Marks, followed by Brianna Serrato and Jim Armstrong.
I've only lived in Santa Barbara full-time for 5 years. I'm a California credentialed English teacher. I've been teaching for 30 years. I came into this town thinking there's not going to be any work for somebody who's Orton Gillingham trained by the Academy certified. Surely this this small town, it's not LA Unified where I used to be, but no, my phone rings off the hook. I've got students that need help, and too many of them are coming to me by 3rd and 4th grade. So I'm advocating for more principal, teacher training in literacy and letters. There's about a handful of people who are as trained as I am in this town. It's ridiculous. Reading skills improve math. Let's not do it the other way around. It's great. Agents of change, accountability, they're all words. The silver bullet, teach literacy all the way up. I see that you have this wonderful M class, K through 2, aligned with Dibbles as a screener. That's fantastic. But if you look at it, and it's all science of reading, but we seem to be afraid, even at the top, of saying the science of reading. It's been proven. It helps all kids across the board. K1 are the only ones who get phonemic awareness, letter naming, nonsense word assessment per this screening. It doesn't apply to the older kids in second grade that goes up to oral reading comprehension, etc. So we need to look at that screening carefully because a lot of kids got lost in that pandemic. We owe it to them. I'm going to be a grandmother of dyslexic kids, kids that have ADHD, etc. But just the regular everybody benefits from structured literacy. So let's not talk about it, let's actually do it. I should be out of business. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is Brianna Serrato and Jim Armstrong.
District administrators are continuously stating that special education students are gen ed students first, and yet they are routinely left out of the documentation and presentations by the superintendent, cabinet, and district officials, especially in relation to academics and literacy. To quote the presentation memo, the district is investing in structured literacy practices aligned to the science of reading to equip educators to deliver high-quality reading instruction and support every student to become a confident, successful reader. While the 8-page memo goes into detail about the SST referral process and mentions tiers 1 through 3, it does not mention tier 3+, aka special education. It references emergent multilingual learners 6 times, but the only direct mention of students with disabilities is a singular mention of IEP. Various programs being used are listed, but there is no mention of the district's shift last year from Orton Gillingham to Wilson Reading Program for SPED students. I commend the district for their attempt at inclusive language. However, only using the term students with learning differences is actually harmful for students with disabilities. While the term students with learning differences correctly emphasizes the idea that everyone learns differently and that there's no single correct way to learn, in doing so, it omits what will be done to support students with disabilities to become readers and not just be moved grade by grade despite not yet being able to read. As I've informed the board numerous times, despite my fierce advocacy, Roosevelt and the district have utterly failed not only my children in the aspects of reading and math literacy, but many of their peers as well. To quantify this for my son, he tested 686 or the 26th percentile and 819 or the 81st percentile for the Star Early Literacy Test as a kindergartner at Goleta Union. A year later at Roosevelt, he dropped to the 4th percentile and continued then to the 1st percentile. As a 3rd grader, he was still taking the early literacy test until the end of February and scored lower than he had as a kindergartner with a score of 776 or the 3rd percentile. Yet when I brought up these concerns to Principal Galindo, she told me not to focus on test scores, but his IEP goals, which are, for reference, CVC kindergarten words, which just keep getting regurgitated IEP after IEP. Until he got his new SPED teacher, Carissa Ferriola, which I mentioned last meeting. So I continually asked for tutoring, but was given different answers by the principal and district administrators as to whether if students with IEPs that have reading goals or math goals are eligible for the tutoring or not, and yet still did not receive that. So what is the district going to do to ensure that special education students that have the cognitive ability are given the chance every chance every day to be able to become confident, successful readers at every school? My son started off 3rd grade saying he didn't want to go to school because he's dumb, because he can't read, despite being so intelligent and cognitively adept when given the chances.
Thank you. Jim Armstrong.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this item. My name is Jim Armstrong, and I'm a member of the Santa Barbara Reading Coalition. In October 2022, nearly 3 years ago, your staff asked you to approve the first program for letters training, probably the most important building block to implement the science of reading. The letters program, as you've heard, is not a curriculum. It's a foundation that's necessary to teach the curriculum in the science of reading. Of special note in October 2022, the staff report said 3rd through 6th grade teachers must be armed with the knowledge of how reading develops as they have increasing numbers of students in their classrooms reading significantly below grade level. The staff report also quoted Louisa Moats, a nationally recognized reading expert And it stated, in fact, we have evidence that if teachers do not understand either the content or the rationale for explicit teaching, they are unlikely to get results even if the program they have been given is well designed. So where are we today? In May 2023, the board approved $1.7 million to purchase a new Science of Reading curriculum. That included training in the curriculum, several $100,000. But of course, as your staff noted in October 2022, there was no discussion at that time about increasing or speeding up the letters training. The district in 2023 also negotiated a side agreement with the labor union to provide for stipends for people who took the letters training. $500 per module, which means if they complete the 8 modules, that's $4,000. However, according to your staff report today, after nearly 3 years, we have only provided letters training to 23 K through 6 students, or teachers, approximately 16%. In grades 3 through 6, the grades that your staff identified at the time as most important, we've trained only 12%. That includes 7 third grade teachers, 3 fourth grade teachers, and no 5th or 6th grade teachers. As a part of the Santa Barbara Reading Coalition, I can't begin to tell you how disappointed our organization is with the implementation of the Science of Reading program. In 2022, your staff specifically pointed out how critical letters training would be to the success of a new reading curriculum. Yet 3 years later, only 23 out of 140 teachers have been trained in letters. I encourage you to follow this issue carefully. Keep pressure on your staff to implement this, and I hope you can get them to implement it more quickly. In my opinion, 2 years ago when we did the Wit and Wisdom Foundation or Foundations program, we should have accelerated the cohorts then. And here we are 2 years later, and we're way behind the 8 ball. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes the comments.
Thank you. I'm going to welcome back Ms. Alvarado for any questions from the board. Who would like to go first? Ms. Caffrey?
Thank you. So the first question, to echo the audience, is how did you develop the timeline for this letters training?
The timeline is based on multiple factors. One of them is we need funding in order for us to continue to provide the professional learning for our teachers. We also need to gather teachers, right, interest. We do have an interested group of teachers already, and we are going to be working on developing even more so, more participants for each cohort. It is a commitment. It is outside of the workday, right? Otherwise, we are taking the teachers out of the classroom to receive that professional learning if we did it during the school day. So it is something that the timeline was developed based on teacher need, teacher participation, the funding, as well as making sure that we had some time, right? Because we can do the professional learning through the organization that provides that, but that would be more costly because we would have to pay them every time we provide the professional learning. The trainer of trainer models requires about a $200,000 investment to train a group of teachers, but we couldn't do the trainer of trainer models until we had trained educators, because they need to, in order to do the trainer of trainer models, we do need to have educators who have been trained for those 2 years. So those are just a few of those reasons of how that was developed, and based on the need, of course.
I think another important point to acknowledge is the focus of the work has really been these first 2 years on implementing the curriculum. So as Denise has shared, the big lift was on getting the curriculum that's aligned to the standards and also aligned to the science of reading. So really to implement that phase first, and also to train our teachers and principals in that, so that the letters training is really a complement to that. And so the start of that was really in that first year of implementation. And so now, with 2 years of the curriculum implementation under our belt, we're really leveraged to a point to be able to add and accentuate the number of teachers who are letters trained.
Dr. Beal.
We just alternate instead of doing all, or shall I do them all?
You can do all of your questions. I don't see
Okay,
any issue
okay,
with
I'll
that.
keep going. I have quite a few questions, but, so my question is, how many trainers of trainers do we have, and what is our capacity for training teachers?
Our current goal is to have 5 trainer of trainers because we have the teachers and coaches and instructional support specialists. So we are starting with coaches and instructional support specialists to be those trainer of trainers.
We currently do not have trainer of trainers. We want to implement that model. We have people that were trained, but to participate in trainer of trainers, they have to go to the first 2-year program. Now we're in a place where we can do that. Once we identify the money to be able to do that, one path is to create that. So just, your question was, how many do we have? We have
We don't
none yet.
have any.
Idea is that we will
Just
have
to get
5,
some.
and then basically how many teachers can those trainers teach?
They can do multiple cohorts in 1 year. So we would only need 1 trainer of trainer to do a cohort of about 40 teachers. So we can potentially accelerate this depending on again, based on the funding as well.
So basically, right now, our bottleneck is funding, or just help me understand. First, we need to train the trainer of trainers, which takes how long? And then, is it funding what is preventing us from training teachers faster?
So let me start with, I am bringing forward an approval for the cohort number 2. So we're starting cohort number 2 already. In that cohort number 2, we already have the funding available to pay for the professional learning and the stipends for the teachers. We are working on that model for the trainer of trainers. So the next step for us would be to, can you repeat your question? I want to make sure that I answer. I have all the information that you requested.
Thank you very much. So basically, right now we are set to start cohort 2. So what we are approving tonight is
cohort 2.
Actually starting cohort 2, but we
Yes.
have the funding to do it.
Correct.
And then as part of that, are our trainers of trainers being trained in cohort 2, or that would be an additional?
That would be additional piece. So that's part of the multi-year plan. So we don't want to stop our work because we don't have the funding to do the trainer of trainer models. That's why we're bringing forward the approval for cohort number 2. We are currently working on getting some funding, a grant funding to be able to fund the trainer of trainer models. So if that comes through, then we'll be able to then move forward with that trainer of trainer models.
And I just want to say, in my comment, I'm going to talk more about budget, but I have other questions now. So, okay. Thank you. I feel like, so the audience isn't waiting to know what I'll talk about later. Okay, thank you very much. And then my next question is about how we are intervening for kids beyond 3rd grade.
So we are providing, we do have the Universal Screener K2, but we still have also screeners for our other grade levels. So we're not forgetting about our other grade levels because we do know that there is a need. Our system is something we started last year in making sure that we had a screener, and that screener will allow us to provide that support for our students. It is a work in progress. It is something we're developing so that we can strengthen that support within Power Hour and as well as after school.
So is the DIBELS screener, does it give us the same information as the M-Class dyslexia screener? or is it different information? I guess I wonder, why are we not screening students beyond second grade using this dyslexia screener? Why are we using a different screener?
So M-Class is what the board approved for us to purchase, and it's a platform that only allows us for us to use that platform for a certain number of students. If we wanted to use it K-6, we can. We would just need to purchase further. We would need to purchase more licenses if we wanted to use that same platform.
But yes.
Denise, I'm addressing to Denise, but we have the DIBELS assessment, which is grade level specific, which does screen students at the different grade levels 3 times a year. You can work backwards for a student or work forwards for a student when you give those screeners. So in other words, if I give a 4th grade DIBELS test, if a student is not passing it, a teacher could essentially go back to a 2nd grade screener if that was some of the missing skill set, as was mentioned earlier, phonemic awareness, phonics, any early literacy screeners. What we've been trying to build is from the K forward, but it doesn't mean we can't take those screeners to go deeper. We've been aligning our student study team processes as part of this work because before this year, we've had different teams of people deciding different things, and we've been creating alignment there. What we then design for the Tier 2 intervention, when we determine those students who are not, could be a function of 2 things. If we do a 3rd grade class and most of the students don't pass the test, that's not all the students having issues. That's us looking at Tier 1 instruction. What are the practices being used by the teacher that is causing this kind of a result? As well as if it's only certain groups of students, then we would say that's a small group instruction, if it's all the same skill. And then we continue to drill down to individual students. So the science of all of this work is really every principal and teacher coming together using the multi-tiered system of support to identify what is needed. Getting good at all of those systems requires everybody understanding at a very quick level that I just gave what the process is to get to what students need. We have mentioned in the past that we have Lexia as part of our Tier 2 curriculum. It is really difficult to say here this absolute treatment will work because the real work is identifying each student need, whether it's a trend line or a pattern for a group of students or individual students. We can work to bring this board a more robust answer because I know that's a big question mark that we have talked about in the past on what are the different steps to take for the different tiers of supports, for the different grade levels from, 2nd on. We're now starting with K2. We have not had the benefit of even giving the screener yet to figure that out. If you recall last year when we implemented iExcel platform, we had a lot of learnings to make around how that works. So at the beginning of this, there's going to be some challenges in making sure we don't mis-identifying students or over-identify students. And we're going to have to look at all those things very carefully. So I just want to give a very realistic outlook on the implementation phases that we're going to be going through. But I would like to really take time to bring you a really comprehensive answer to Tier 2. I know it's an interest of some of our community members who are here today, and it's an interest of the board. It would be wrong for us to try to just explain it in this quick manner.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Dr. Beal.
Okay, so kind of continuing in some of the questions that Board Member Caffrey brought up, I'm looking at the letters training that occurred with Cohort 1, and the big question that I think has been asked by our commentators and has been also asked by Board Member Caffrey, but I I'm looking for a kind of a more philosophical answer maybe, is when I look at that we had 9 coaches and only 6 of them were letters trained. And it's interesting to me that if we choose people to be coaches, that we don't have a very basic standard expectation that if we are going to implement science of reading, that part of that job is you have to accept the training. I understand that it's difficult, I understand it's time intensive, but this is the job. And so the bigger question that I'm going to ask you is, we have this goal of 100%. And what are our levers if we weren't able to get to even 30 or 40% to get to 100% in 3 years? Like, what has changed that we think that this will happen?
I can answer the coaches. Life happens with coaches, and I can give you 2 quick examples. One retired, and one was on maternity leave. So those are 2 reasons as to why we didn't have, part of the reason why we didn't have 100% completion, and at one of the positions was not filled. So those are the 3 that are still missing.
And
Mike's off.
oh, again, the second part of the question is what is the plan to get to 100%? Do we have a specific plan in place?
So the plan is to get teachers on board, right? Explaining and sharing. Teachers want to do it, but it also, again, this would require time outside of the workday, and it would be one of the major lifts is the 4 days. So it is a 2-year program, and it's intentionally done that way because it requires some professional learning on 1 full day, and usually that has happened for the cohort 1 on a Saturday. After that, then the teachers apply it, do some reading, and then come back for unit number 2, and so on. So there are 4 days total for the year that happen with a lot of reading. I believe it's 180 hours total for the program to complete the program. And then year 2 happens again, but again, it's dispersed. Can everyone do a Saturday? I mean, if we think about our own selves, can we all commit to a Saturday, to 4 Saturdays? Things happen, but we do want to encourage our teachers. And we do work with our teachers to ensure that we select, once the cohort is formed, then we work with that team to decide which of those 4 days throughout the year work for you. We want to make sure that it works for the individuals that are committed to this work. And so that's the way we were able to get that many teachers there for cohort number 1 as the initial start of the professional learning.
So I will sort of save my comments for later. More specific questions. How many people have signed up I think it's on me, I'm just not close enough to it. How many people have signed up to be in cohort 2?
So we had an initial, just to get a feel for how many, and we had about 20 some signed up. We didn't want to get a commitment because once it's gets board approved, as soon as next week we can start sharing that information with our teachers and get that number. So we really can't move too much forward until we get that approval, board approval for us. We also have a side letter from the union with the stipends as well, which is a part of the work that needs to happen as well. That needed to be in place before we can even commit, because I can't tell a teacher sign up for something, but they don't know what they're signing up for because we haven't had a commitment from our union about the stipends and how much they're going to get paid. So a teacher to sign up needs to know, when am I going to do this? How much commitment, and how am I going to be compensated? So there's a lot of different moving parts. Once we get, I think this is the last step. So once we get the approval tonight, then we can start moving forward with the sending information. We're ready. We're ready to send that information as soon as next week.
Okay, thank you for explaining that to me. I think I'll ask a separate set of questions. I'll let you go ahead. Okay, I have comments too, but I'll go back to this again. We talked about informing parents of a student's performance with all the STAR assessments and CASP and all that, and there's a midpoint, and parents are informed. What is the process of informing a parent specifically of where their student is at, and does it, so this is a several part question, does it indicate where they are in terms of, I don't know if we use the words tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or if we use different words? And if we send that information to a parent, is this happening during parent-teacher conferences? Are they getting a letter? And if there's no response from the parents, what is our response to this situation?
Our response is to be persistent until we get a response from our parents. So we don't, just because we send something out to our families, here's a report card, that's not the only point of contact. That's not the expectation. I can't tell you specifically about all the different things that happen, but there are multiple layers in terms of getting a hold of our parents. We have our family engagement liaisons who support our school sites in getting a hold of parents who may have no access to maybe to an electronic device, to a computer, to be able to access that information. We make parent phone calls. There's a variety of different things that are done. Number one, it happens with the teacher. So as a teacher, if I'm providing interventions and I provide a grade, then as a teacher, I'm the first point of contact with the parents. Also through the SST process, if I have concerns about the student who's not making progress, then there is a process in place at the school site as to how we move forward so that we can provide support and engage the parent in working together with the school site. The midpoint notice is sent before at the middle of the trimester. So it happens middle of the trimester. If the student is not making progress, then the parent receives that information, and it provides them with information about why the student is not making progress in the interventions and they will be receiving interventions. Then they get a progress report card, and at that point, there's a parent-teacher conference. The teacher can request a parent-teacher conference at any time. We don't need to wait until a report card at the end of trimester. I hope that answered. I'm not sure if it answered your
That does
question.
answer how we are trying to get the information to the parents. So say somebody is in a tier 2 or tier 3 level. At that point, when the parent is informed, are they given a specific program? Your student, your child is at tier 2, tier 3. This is what we're going to do, and it is going to happen. Like what is the outcome of informing parents that students need additional help? Is the district guaranteeing that there will be an intervention, and are they told what that intervention is?
I think that's the same question that we talked about earlier, where we really want to bring you a more robust answer to, because we really do need to talk to our principals and get clarity on that question. It's a big question. I know that it requires a lot of answers. I think this presentation is not really geared towards that, so I'd like to ask you to just give us some time to gather all our facts and bring really clear information on that process.
Thank you for saying that. I do feel that as we present a plan, if we don't anticipate, how that plan is going to be effective, that kind of informs the plan, right? It's a circular thing. And I have a few more questions. What is the planned training for our literacy volunteers? More specifically, is it Science of Reading aligned? Is it the same product we're using with our teachers?
So our current curriculum, Foundations and Wit and Wisdom, are aligned to the Science of Reading.
I'm talking about the literacy volunteers who are going to help our students. What is their curriculum for doing the interventions and being involved with our students?
I was trying to get to that answer. Our curriculum is aligned to the Science of Reading. Our practices that we use through Letters in Orton Gillingham are aligned to the Science of Reading. The staff members in our district office who would provide that support for our new volunteers would be our instructional support specialist, as well as the coaches at the school sites who have been trained on the Science of Reading through our curriculum, professional learning, interventions, and other work that we have been doing throughout the year.
Are they going through a training session?
They're going to be trained. One of the things that we are very keen on, and I know some of you have informed us about this, one of the shifts we need to make is the thought that kids can't read, and we're going to hire people to teach them how to read that are not fully credentialed, highly qualified teachers. So the volunteer program that we're bringing is not to train those people to become that highly qualified, credentialed science or reading trained teacher. The volunteer program is going to be able to provide support to the teacher as they are working through their power hour or whatever that time is called when they're doing small group instruction that is targeted to the student need. This is one of the big shifts we're making. We keep trying to hire more people or bring additional for the neediest kids, and our shift has to be that the trained teacher works with those neediest students. And how we train the volunteers, we still are working through the needs that we're going to identify, because as you know, this is a pilot year, and we've identified 3 schools, I believe,
3 schools
to do that. So we're going to have to still work through the teachers, the principals, on figuring out what that's going to look like. So ask the teachers, we still need time to talk to the teachers. What will you provide to those students who you are going to take on while that teacher is working with the neediest? So that's still all being worked out. Our initial thought was to do the Ortho Gillingham and, really look at foundations and things like that. That's our thinking here. What we're learning, and as you know from hearing small group tests of change, we want to get with the teachers to figure out what will help you most, and how will we structure some of this volunteer work. But we definitely have to be clear, it cannot be that they're going to be the providers of intervention and the people who are expected to close that gap. So that's still being worked out. Is there a specific program? No, there is not like one off-the-shelf program that I know of, at least, and if somebody knows of an off-the-shelf program that does that, I would like to know that. But I really do think that requires more meetings with teachers and information from them as to how that's going to work. It's our pilot year. Once we get through figuring that out, then we'll bring more information to the board.
I think the confusing factor there is when we look at Franklin School and they have used trained people to provide the interventions, and that has been successful for that school, but it sounds like you're going a different way. And if that is effective, that's good. I would have a few concerns that if there is a lot of intervention needed, that the single teacher who's in charge of all the students will have the capacity to manage all those interventions without some people who are specialized. But I'm going into comments.
Can I just comment? I just want to make sure that I clarify for the Franklin, those are retired teachers that are working at Franklin. That's a different level of group of people that are coming in to do all those interventions. That is different than what, we don't know. We might get in the volunteer program, some of them, but that is designed with those kinds of people doing the intervention.
I think my assumption was that maybe the literacy volunteers would have some expertise, but once again, we're kind of getting into the weeds of this. My final question is really about the funding. I will express that I have about as much confusion as our commentators have on funding, and maybe I'm misunderstanding something about our school funding. Literacy and math are goals we have set, and we are, and I would like to think that every year we designate funding for professional development materials in literacy and math and other things. So I'm a little confused why, if literacy is one of our goals, we're looking to outside funding to really go through this program. I know that we have budgetary issues. This is a major, we're an educational institution, so maybe what is the funding issue that we can't direct resources towards our literacy efforts?
So I'd like to jump in just real quick, because when we set those goals and those priorities, we were already far into the budgeting process. So the understanding was when we were making budgetary decisions, we didn't have those priorities or those goals to make those decisions at the time. I think that's the thought process behind setting priorities as a board for the district, is that for this upcoming budget cycle, when we are presented with questions like this, and literacy is the very first priority that we have on our list, among the 4, that we would be able to parse it out and say, yes, we want to make that investment. So I think to ask Ms. Alvarado that question right now, it's based on a budget that didn't have those priorities baked into it when we were making decisions. So you would be looking forward, I think you would be looking forward about investments rather than looking at the current budget. And right now, Ms. Alvarado and the team, they're using the current budget that we approved to make those decisions. And in that current budget, it wasn't the investment beyond this second cohort. Is that correct?
That we actually allocated for cohort number 2, that is secured, and that is something we developed or we planned for a year ago.
But beyond cohort 2, we didn't allocate any money in the current budget for.
Not for, no.
Correct.
Can I just add that we are in a time of uncertainty with budgets. If you had asked us this question 3 weeks ago, it would have been a no because the federal government had said no Title II money. So when we're looking at all of our investments, we were, I want to say 3 weeks ago, thinking that we were not going to have any professional development. So as we look at our funding and investments, we're a little bit of an uncertain time. It doesn't mean we can't look at things going forward. Now that we have Conrad here, we can still look at, he's going to bring the first interim. If we find that there's extra money there are pockets of money we can go to. But as I'm out in the community, as Mr. Banny knows, and Ms. Biolino from the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, our biggest supporters and large funders in our school community want to see these kinds of proposals coming to them. They're not interested in the small proposals. They want the big proposals that are going to be significant changes. So we're really looking at that avenue. It doesn't mean we're not going to try to look at our budget, but there's no harm in trying to get a proposal out as well in the meantime. And again, this fluctuation in budget adoption, whether or not we're going to get title money, how are we going to make those investments, as we look at our 4.2 million deficit, those are all considerations, and that's part of this planning and seeking out additional funding.
So to be clear, this document, which basically says the success of the program over 3 years is dependent on outside funding, is like it's an evolution that we may, as we develop our budget, we have a finance committee be able to hopefully direct some funds, and that at the same time, we can ask for outside support if we're really squeezed. Okay, thank you for answering that, because it sounds like if we don't get donations, we're not going to be able to complete this program, and I didn't want to have that misunderstanding.
Other questions from the board? Okay, I have a few. So it looks like on your slides, we were just talking about the letters training. So that first 2 years that we just had the first cohort go through, is that right?
Yes.
For the training of trainer model, what is the cost for that?
That's $199,000.
$199,000, and that's what we're trying to secure funding for through the grant and possibly the partnership with Santa Barbara Ed Foundation?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm working with 2 funders right now, and hopefully we can get some additional.
Perfect.
That's for 10 people that we can train.
Thank you. And you spoke about with the letters training, I imagine coordinating the schedule of 60 people is pretty tough, or can be pretty tough. With the training of trainer models, does it provide more flexibility with the potential of having smaller cohorts and providing flexibility in scheduling?
Yes, because with the other model that we currently have, we're dependent on availability of our vendor, making sure that we're connecting contracts and a variety of things. If we have once we have our trainer of trainers, then we adjust based on the teacher's needs, and we can have a variety of cohorts in 1 year.
And to train the trainers, I think this question was asked, but I didn't take a note. What is the length of time for that training?
That could take about a week and a half to 2 weeks, so that's shorter.
Okay.
That's very, very short. So we can start training right away.
So once we identify the funding and we coordinate amongst those 10 individuals, it's a fairly quick process to get them on board and have them available to start training other teachers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So this timeline of 3 years potentially could be quite a bit faster if we have
Yes.
our trainers on board.
That is correct.
So really, the big hurdle is finding that money, that funding. And if you were being optimistic, and our partners came through, what does that timeline look like?
September, as early as August, September, we may have an answer. Dr. Maldonado?
We still need the trainers is one bucket of expenditures. We would still need to find the stipend payments for the teachers and the materials. So there's an additional cost for every cohort of teachers you're going to bring. As I was rightly, every teacher is $4,000 payment to the teacher plus the materials. So there's a little bit more cost to it than just the trainer.
Thank you for highlighting that. Those are my questions. Thank you. Any other questions from the board before we get into deliberations and comments? Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for the answers. And thank you for the commitment for a future presentation to elaborate
Thank
a
you.
little bit more. Oh, sorry. Mr. Vasquez, we have one more question. I'm sorry. I missed
No,
it.
you're good. My question was mostly answered actually. I had mine before yours were asked. Oh my gosh. I was still a little bit like confused about this whole teacher participation barrier, and what is being done to kind of mitigate that. And I did a quick search and saw that other school districts, potentially mandated, letters training, and I'm not sure what that looks like and why can't we do that.
So,
Good evening, board members, superintendent. We can mandate training. The training needs to happen within the contract day. So if we want to move to a model of mandating the training, we just have to make sure that we pull those teachers out of the classroom and do the training and have a substitute for them. So that's the way we can mandate and have control over their contract day.
Thank you.
I don't know what the other districts did, but I'm assuming they probably did a pull-out program like that.
And Dr. Vecchio, would it be possible, and I don't know if you have this on your head, but for a substitute to pull a teacher from the classroom, I'm guessing that's a cost. So
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is. It's you're going to approve the substitute salary schedule tonight, so it's in our
Alright.
board item. I think it's I think it's $190 a day. Yeah, per substitute.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Apologize, Mr. Vasquez. I think you're good. Ms. Caffrey.
I guess to build on his question, do you think that mandating is necessary, or you can get to 100% without mandating the training?
I don't think we know the barriers yet. We know some of the barriers, but I think until we can get this information out to the teachers and really gather information from them, and we can learn about what the barriers, because I can only speculate what those are. So I think it's best that now that we have this plan, we can send the information out to all of our K-6 teachers and identify when they would be ready, which cohort would they like to join, how soon, and then really get that information from them before we can start speculating.
One additional question. So for the curriculum specialists and for the instructional support specialists, what is the process for making letters training mandatory for those positions? Because we're talking about far fewer positions.
That would be same on the contract with Dr. Vecchio?
Did you say ISSs and curriculum support specialists, so TOSAs?
Yeah.
So that process is the same, except no sub needed.
Mhm.
So, we have really control over their contract time, and they're not with kids, so we don't have to replace them with a classroom substitute.
So we could mandate
Oh,
that
yeah.
unilaterally. It wouldn't have to be a
Yep.
part of a negotiation.
Nope.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
I may just add, there's only 3 more that we would need to mandate. So it's not, we're not talking about a significant number, and it would require not just the professional learning days, it's also reading time that we would have to pay hourly outside of their workday or provide it within the school day. So it's still time that we would need to pay for.
Correct. I think the thought would be if the other 6 left their position, that we would be able to mandate it as part of their training for the position.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to the board for any comments or deliberations. Who wants to go first? Ms. Munoz.
Yes, I appreciate, all the information provided to us and the thoughtful questions about, getting this off the ground. I'm anxious for our kids to get started if possible, this school year. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Banning?
Yeah, I agree with the comments, appreciative of the work that's being done, and I appreciate the members of the community that have been here to put forth their positions for us and the questions that have been answered patiently. Thank you for that work. My only comment relative to the process is to speak to the strong support I have for what Dr. Maldonado was speaking about in regard to the shift from how volunteers are used. It seems to me, if I'm imagining the slides correctly, that first one that showed the tiers has a smaller triangle within it that puts a 25% number at the top, and the 25% number or the 5% that's at the very top. It's a very interesting number, and it's very closely aligned to the number of teachers that we have with currently the letters training. And so some of the consideration, I would think, is, are we making sure that the kids with the greatest difficulty and needs are being served by those that have the training completed?
Thank you.
That was a rhetorical question.
Ms. Caffrey and then Dr. Beal.
Thank you very much for your presentation and all of your work. I think it's exciting that we are working towards 100% of our K-6 teachers being trained. So I really recognize all of the work that you are doing. Thank you. I also want to thank our community members who are a continual resource and a help. Thank you very much. And I appreciate us all working together to help our students. I would say the accountability piece has very much been on our mind as a board. And I think, this isn't a question for you, this is just.
Okay, thank you.
Just that we are having a governance meeting next on Saturday the 16th, and I really want to thank President Escobedo and Vice President Banning for organizing it. But a big piece of that is, how do boards set clear goals for their districts, SMART goals that are for each of our priority areas, and basically then ensure accountability. So use our time in our meetings to monitor progress towards those goals. So if you are available to join, I think we're going to hear from experts helping boards do this. So I think the accountability piece really comes from the board. And then in terms of the financial piece, speaking to what Trustee Beal was talking about, I think one major point of the Finance Committee is that we hope to look at all of our spending and then our priority areas and make sure we're investing in what we're prioritizing as a community for our students. So that is really what, unless you put money towards what we're trying to accomplish, we won't accomplish anything. So I think we're really, as a board, as a district, we're moving in this direction.
Dr. Beal.
I second Board Member Caffrey's comments about the excitement of having the number 100% in front of me. I love that number. And I do appreciate, again, our community members who, tirelessly advocate for our students and are very clear about what needs to happen. I have a thought, and this is my comment. We're talking about the teacher trainers, and we're talking about we're talking about asking people who are in those positions to do interventions within the classroom, not talking to volunteers, also being trained. And what I think in my mind is when we invest in the teacher trainers, we're going to get an exponential effect because they're not just going to be in one classroom, they're going to be interacting with several teachers. So as part of this plan, focusing on those instructional support people, the teacher training program might give us bigger dividends faster. So it shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be alongside asking our teachers to be trained. The other comment I will make, and I appreciate the comments from our student board member, is, what have we seen in other districts? Now, we have smaller districts in our area, and we know that one district trained a small number of teachers who then, they had such success that other teachers wanted to be trained. That was a cultural phenomenon. There is another small district that did mandate that teachers be trained, and it happened that way, or it's happening that way. So I do think that as a district, we need to have expectations of our teachers, that it is important, and we are trying to do that as a board to be aligned with the district, to be aligned with our teacher, that this is very important. It's almost an emergency because this is what we do. And so the focus on the expectation and the culture is important, that if you are going to be in a position of teaching, this is how you best teach your students. So that message, however you want to deliver it, it's important. I know it's a big commitment, it's a big time commitment. It seems that if we do the teacher training program, we have flexibility, which is, once again, let's not make that an afterthought. Let's make that a parallel program to give us a lot of flexibility as a district to train as many people as possible. And so that's the comment I'll be making on that. And there was a comment about the subs for the ISS and TOSAs. If the number is 3, we probably could afford that, right? Even if they have subs to be in, to do their training. So I think that's a small number, so I don't think that should be a barrier. The other comment I'll make is similar to one I made when I was talking about the EML plan. When I looked at other successful EML plans, one that stood out to me is you have students who are Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and they're kind of marching along and hopefully all moving into Tier 1. But in that EML plan, because there's a year limited thing before they became long-term English learners, if they didn't reach a certain goal by a certain year, there was an emergency. That was an emergency, and there were very specific interventions that were very specific to that group of students. And that intervention actually improved the program overall, because if those students could be successful, a lot of other students could be successful with the same practices. So it was a nice ecosystem of not just saying we're improving all students. And I know the comment was made, and it's a good comment, that when we see that there are students in Tier 2, Tier 3, that informs our Tier 1 intervention. But it almost feels like it takes away from our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students, that we keep focusing on Tier 1 so we can keep moving Tier 2 and Tier 3 into Tier 1. And I know that's not what people are trying to say, but we do have to look at those Tier 3 students and treat them like an emergency and have some very specific thoughts and conversations about what can happen with them, because I think it will actually also improve our Tier 1 intervention. So anyway, that's just a comment I have.
Other board comments? Mr. Vasquez, any comments?
I do not have any, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Maldonado, do you want to give your comments?
So, first of all, I also want to thank the Reading Coalition and Mr. Saltzman reminding me of what I said so long ago. My God, great memory. And obviously, hopefully, by now you realize things have shifted a little. I do want to recognize the cognitive overload of a teacher's day and what we're asking our teachers to do. It's not an excuse. But we did adopt a new curriculum. We didn't enter probably the journey of improving literacy the same way other districts is for the same reasons you mentioned. But I want to recognize that the curriculum we adopted did involve training the teachers, giving them a whole new set of books, literally like wiping out all the books they had and putting in the system brand new books, brand new teacher guides, which take a lot of learning time. And having been a teacher myself, having gone through those changes several times in my career, those take time. We did have that first cohort that we now can build the trainer of trainer models from, right? Did we start the journey with that intention? Probably not, because really we were in such an urgent moment of, can we get a new curriculum adopted? And I want to just take us back to that scenario. We've also seen that pyramid we show you here, that's the ideal pyramid. When we look at data, the pyramid could be flipped. We probably have more kids in tier 3 and in tier 2 than in tier 1. So when we think about flipping the instruction in tier 1 to be stronger, it's to really inform ourselves of what is happening in the classroom with that teacher so that we can get more kids with really good first-time instruction and not expect to wait till later to fix whatever didn't go right. So we're trying to flip that pyramid to that ideal pyramid. That is not what's happening now. So if we were to look at the data of who's in tier 1, here's 2, it may be a rectangle. Who knows what that shape would look like? So I just want to make sure that I call that to your attention. That is aspirational. Our 100% goals are aspirational, but things to make us work towards when, life gets in the way of everybody's work. I also want to say that during the second year here, when we were coming out of COVID, we invested in principal instructional knowledge around the teaching reading playbook that really took the principals at a balcony level of understanding all of what it takes to teach beginning reading skills with phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary development, decoding, and so on. Because we know that I really want to, and you saw it with the elementary principals, we're working on principals being instructional leaders. In the old days, the main teacher became the principal. We really want to get away from just managing a school set. So for me, I want to be mindful of all the shifts we've been making and make sure that as you continue to challenge us, to ask us to bring clarity to the work, if I have learned nothing in this district, I have to do it with teachers alongside us. And that takes longer. It's slower. It requires a lot more conversations, a lot more relationship building, a lot more listening and learning from what they're doing. Yes, this board, as you have said, we can sit here and mandate it. That doesn't cost a shift. I like what you mentioned, Dr. Beal, about when we see other teachers succeeding, I can guarantee you they're all looking at the math scores now going, let me see what happened. And we heard principals at the end of RBL, I can't wait to see my math scores. Both areas are at urgency for us in Santa Barbara Unified, and I cannot emphasize enough how important that is to all of us. But I wanted to just kind of bring a little bit of context, having been a teacher, all of the things that we're asking, and we really do need to do this alongside them, and that's our commitment to the board and to our community members and to our parents more than anybody else who trust us with their kids every day. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start, and I'm glad that you made those comments, Dr. Maldonado, because I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our community members. We have Sherry Ray, who I know has been here for decades making this argument. We have the Reading Coalition. We have our staff who has done a lot of work. We have teachers in the classroom who have done a lot of work, and I know it doesn't feel that way sometimes, but it feels a lot better having this discussion than it did when I first joined the board and we didn't have a curriculum. So it's not to say that we're finished, but it is worthwhile highlighting that we have made progress. I think when we talk about setting priorities as a district, it's a little bit about this conversation, and Dr. Beal highlighted it. When we are talking about setting budget priorities, does it align with the priorities that we've set for the district? I'm excited about the idea of discussing something like a strategic plan where we're setting goals, where we're whether they are aspirational. I think I would like to fall a little bit short of 100% and be a lot further than if we set some goal of 25% or 30% because we knew we could do it. I think I also like the work that is being done that we heard about earlier with RBL, the results-based leadership training. Because at the heart of that training is a shared responsibility. Whether it's the board up here, whether it is our cabinet staff, whether it is our district staff, whether it is our principals, whether it's the teachers, whether it's our paras, there's a shared responsibility to serve our students. And because we have set these priorities, I'm hoping that it's to also meet those priorities and to serve our students in those ways. I'm particularly interested, and I understand and I hear you about mandating it versus bringing teachers along. Absolutely. I think that if we want true cultural impact, it has to be through that lens of bringing teachers along. I'm particularly interested, though, in making letters mandatory for our instructional specialists, our curriculum support specialists. That makes sense to me. If there's turnover in those positions, having it mandatory, that it's an expectation of the role, is really important. I think we also, in talking about our district in particular, because we live in such a high cost area, has to battle with turnover. And so in our system, as we're training these teachers and they're leaving our district for one reason or another, and oftentimes it's cost of living, we need to build into the system the capacity to bring on new teachers and get them this science of reading based intensive training. And I think having the trained trainers model is the way to go, because it just increases our capacity. And Dr. Bill spoke about it. Absolutely, it can be exponential. I think having smaller cohorts that have more flexibility where you can schedule it and it isn't such a barrier for many of our teachers to build it into their schedule could be something that really gets us closer to what Mr. Salzman was saying is, yeah, we said 3 years, but we can build the capacity to get there sooner. So I am really looking forward to hearing back about that funding. I thank you, Ms. Alvarado, for spearheading this with many more people, I'm sure. And I just think that, yes, it's frustrating right now, but there are some really, really encouraging and promising parts of what we heard today. And I think that's what I'm walking away with. I'm looking forward to hearing the future presentation. And I also like the idea of other topics like that throughout the school year, bringing them to the board to talk and have more in-depth discussions about our literacy efforts. So we don't feel like we have to get it all into one presentation, because I know that's difficult. All right, so with that, we will close out E1. How are we feeling? Do we want to just power through? Pretty short agenda. Feeling okay? Okay. So yeah, if you have to take care of yourself, yep. Yeah. Thank you all. We're going to move on to F1, approval of job description for an in-house general counsel. And I believe this is Dr. Maldonado.
I'm going to basically recognize the request that was made at the last meeting to have our very own Mr. Tedeschi, I was trying to give you a new title in my brain, do a cost-benefit analysis, which has been uploaded and shared with the board. I know that we had a few questions that followed up, which you've received answers to. And we basically just are bringing this back based on the request that was made at the last meeting.
Thank you. I don't know if... Okay. Okay, with that...
Sorry, I guess I could bring up Mr. Tedeschi if you want to ask questions about the cost-benefit analysis.
I think that would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
Thank you. We just are not going to read it or present it in any particular way.
Yeah.
Mr. Tedeschi.
Okay, good
All right.
evening, Board. Dr. Maldonado. As you have seen in the attachment that was included with the agenda for this evening, I went through and I created what, to the best that I thought would work and what the board was looking for in the cost-benefit analysis that gave some kind of general numbers of what our contract attorney is costing compared to what an in-house attorney would cost. And then following that up, I provided some detail of the types of items, it's up on the screen, that we have been paying our general counsel for, kind of very specific, taken from our invoices that we receive, obviously with some of the names redacted as needed. But it also, in that, I try to provide some kind of basic information that talks, the benefits of the in-house attorney and also the benefits of the contracted law firm based on certain aspects of the work that they do. And then after that, as we scroll down, you'll see the actual analysis of the invoices. The dates get kind of funky because it's, I started in March and April. There was a lot of invoices. So I figured I started March and April, kind of worked my way forward through there. I'd get to March, April, I'd get to May, and then we'd get another invoice for March in April. So I just kind of went down. That's why they're not necessarily in chronological order by month, but you can see, I'm not going to read through all of this detail in there, but there's a lot of general consultation, specific issues with properties. There's a lot of HR types of functions and support, and then with bids, and then public records requests that just seem to never end. They keep coming, and as we go through, then I when I got to the bottom of this with general counsel, I also provided some data on some of the other attorneys that we use that are more specialized. You'll see some, and I tried to pull out some of the items to give you detail of the kind of things that, is it really that specialized? Is it something that a good attorney could help us provide? So that's why I gave some of the descriptions. When we get down to where we get into the special education matters, I just kind of left it at that as being special education matters because they're very specific. But even within some of those, there were some general special education consultation, asking general questions that weren't specific to a student or a case. And so I tried to pull, it's not as much there, but there is some. And so as we get through all of that data, and then I provided what I called a factor comparison. Once again, kind of, looking at specific factors. You can keep scrolling. There you go, the green one there. That kind of really, this is where it's, I don't want to say pros and cons, but with each of them, we tried to line them up and say with cost, which one is the pro, which one may have the benefit, and which one may not. When you look at cost, and keep in mind, some of this depends on the size of the district too. I think for smaller districts that are 1 or 2 schools would not benefit from a cost standpoint of having an in-house attorney. As you get larger and there's more issues and more things going on, it definitely becomes more cost effective for in-house attorney. And so you can go down through the list: expertise, accessibility, use flexibility, institutional knowledge. And so all of these things, I tried to provide kind of a table here that shows kind of where this one might be better than that one, but then that one might be better than this one, to really give you a good objective look into making that decision of kind of weighing the pros and cons through this table. And then the last table, I kind of went through, kind of racked my brain for all the things I talked about it last time briefly, was intangibles. It's the things that you may not see on an invoice, but it's also the benefits of what an in-house attorney might bring. That it's hard to definitely put a specific dollar amount on. For reference, the deep institutional knowledge, immediate access and responsiveness, building trust and confidentiality, alignment with district mission and values. That's an important piece to consider as well. And so all of these intangibles, again, just more information for you as you make a decision this evening. And then I provided a conclusion at the bottom based on all of this, going through the research and doing what we did. I think for a district our size, it could be considered benefit to have in-house attorney compared to contract. I know I kind of zipped through it, but I hope you all had a chance to take a look at it and want to read through the whole thing.
We did. Thank you. Do we have any public comment for this item?
Brianna Serrato, public comment.
Hello again. I'll address the elephant in the room that wasn't addressed head-on with the legal cost-benefit analysis. On top of the $454,000 of the general counsel from June to May was $192,000 just for case-specific special education matters. There was an additional $9,000 of billables for general special education from September to May. That is $200,000 just in attorney fees, not including any financial settlements, compensatory services, etc., due to families feeling their only option is to take legal action against the district to advocate for their disabled students. As a parent advocate that routinely attended the district SEEK meetings the last 2 years, I'm actually surprised that amount isn't higher based on the countless reports from the parents of violations and issues that were routinely not being properly addressed, despite calling IEP meetings and escalating to school administration or district officials. Is the district routinely auditing if they are serving IEPs to fidelity, not just for SAI minutes, but for all service type minutes and accommodations? And yes, I am referring to last summer having to offer an SAI makeup program, but no further follow-up to my questions regarding how things like paraeducative minutes would be made up. As a parent that has been getting the runaround, ghosting, and pie crust promises from school IEP team members, district officials, and even cabinet members this year, what will the board be doing this year to ensure that special education families are feeling not just heard when there is a concern, but that IEPs, 504s, and IHPs are truly being followed? May I suggest that the district expand the contract with, I believe, UCSB that was previously discussed for surveying these families as soon as possible to know what the priorities need to be. I believe it was, the survey was with regards to families leaving the district and why they were leaving, and couldn't imagine why families with students with IEPs are leaving this district. SEEK spent a year trying to do an in-house survey to be provided after IEP meetings, and I can attest it still wasn't in place as of mid-May last year. I feel if parents and guardians know that it is an independent study, you will be more likely to have candid responses for a chance to fix things before they are then escalated further. And if this independent survey and audit are done, I can only hope and pray that the large systemic issues will finally be fixed, no matter how hard it is to right that ship, even if it is only due to the realization of the potential financial risks when there is already a huge budget deficit.
Thank you.
Questions from the board? Dr. Beal.
I wanted to thank Mr. Tedeschi for spending so much time. I mean, this was really a very nice document. I will preface my questions with something that I expressed last time, which is a little bit of discomfort, well, not a little bit, a lot of discomfort as a board member. This is an approval of a job description. It is not a question about whether or not we should have an in-house counsel. So this item is really, do we approve the job description? And I see the sequence of events being like, if we say, okay, this job description fits the bill for if we wanted to have an in-house counsel, but we're not really discussing at any point whether that is the right decision for our district. So I do have very specific questions about the cost-benefit analysis, and they're just very specific for that, but I do really, in some ways, I'm not sure that I even want to get involved with this job description because I haven't answered that question for myself. Is this the way for us to go? And I could say more about it. In terms of the cost-benefit analysis, I know that it was mentioned, I think, in the previous documents, as well as my own research, that the salary plus benefits, that the benefits are actually going to be about $70,000. It's pretty clear that we will save money with an in-house legal counsel. Your analysis shows that. Even if I add the extra $50,000, we're going to save anywhere from $114,000 to $164,000 a year using our general counsel. I did have a question that couldn't really be answered, which is, our general counsel exceeded its cap last year, and my question was that all on general counsel work, or was the 100,000 plus really on work that could not be done with it by a general counsel? And I think the answer was that has not been really, why was that cap exceeded, and was that all general counsel work that made the cap go higher? It's a firm, or was the cap really for general counsel work?
The cap is for the general counsel work. I think there's a lot of different topics, as you can see in there. The cap being exceeded is probably both sides of that invoice. Us, on our side, not seeing the cap is about to be exceeded, and then on the other side, billing beyond the cap, and us having a conversation before that cap gets exceeded.
So just to be clear, did the cap get exceeded just for general counsel work, or was that firm also doing work that would not be covered by a general counsel? Because there is specialized work that they can't do. That was actually my question.
And I hear you, and I think part of a challenge has been the billing, in the coding of billing and understanding how to separate those things. I think Mr. Tedeschi, not being from our district, did a really great job of figuring that out. But billing practices has been a constant back and forth that has been an issue. He was getting bills for June just last week, or between the last meeting and this meeting, we were still receiving bills for June. So there hasn't been a tightness around getting our bills on time, getting the coding done in a way that we could separate it by people, because many of us would contact general counsel. And I think there's a lot of learning from doing this deep dive. I mean, I know that when we started the process of looking at budget sustainability last fall, one of the things that, we asked about was looking at deep dives, looking at tools from other ways that we could look at places to save money. We've learned a lot since, and one of them would be controls, on, like Mr. Tedeschi said, on both sides of the house. But it's a little difficult to manage when we're getting bills later on. He's getting bills after May for March. So a lot to be learned and a lot to fix on both sides.
Yes. I think
of the
really my
issue.
question is, are we saving money? Like, how much is it? Because we're looking at two things, like, would it benefit us to have an in-house legal counsel, not just financially, but for other reasons? And that's the argument you have here, which I really, really appreciate. And so I don't really think this is a dollars and cents. This is a big sum discussion. And certainly when we're talking about not being able to really fund our literacy curriculum, $100,000 is a lot of money. So I'm not insensitive to the fact that saving money, we can put that money elsewhere. But I do want to make sure that we don't have a legal counsel and then still have big legal bills because we didn't have a way of looking at the cost-benefit analysis clearly. And I think that really, when I look at the 3-month analysis, I see in March, April that we had $43,577 of real estate. And so the question is our general counsel going to manage our real estate? Is that an expertise they need to have? Like, can our general counsel do all this work? And really, when I was thinking of numbers and math, I was like, how many billable hours did our general counsel give us for last year? And can our general counsel do that many hours of work? Like something very granular, like, is this more than work for one person, right? And so are we going to exceed the capacity or the cost of our general counsel because we just have so much work? In an ideal world, we could, have many people do the work and it not cost us a lot of money. But these are just thoughts that run through my mind. And so those are questions I have on the cost benefit. I do think we will save money. That's nice. But then I kind of get into other thoughts. I really appreciate the work in changing the job description. I think the things that I suggested to just make it really more of a better match for the experience and what we're expecting our general counsel to potentially manage is good. I had a few questions. I think the biggest one is I just had a question. This came up, I think, in our comments. Is our general counsel going to look at our IEP? Is that something that does our general counsel right now that we hire deal with our IEPs?
So that is not the case. They don't have anybody that I am aware of that works with special, did you want to? Oh, let me have Ms. Edison come
Yeah.
up to talk about that.
We do use a specialized firm for our special education, and it does not go through our general counsel.
So will this general counsel that we are planning to have in-house now do that work, or will we still use our specialized firm?
So ideally, when we find that perfect person, we're hoping that we're going to look for someone that will have experience, particularly in the areas, as was mentioned, that are the highest need for us. So when we look for the candidate, we're going to look for educational experience, as was in the board Q&A. But more than that, we're going to look at where have we fallen short and look for someone that can really address those issues, because as you know, the prevention part of this position will also be to develop the deep leadership capacity of the people that are sometimes not making the right decisions. So ideally, we would want somebody with general ed and special ed. If I may add to the housing question, I think that in retrospect, we're going to look, I know my focus is a lot keener on when we do need to have somebody be in the meetings or not, how long the meetings last, what's truly the participation in that meeting. I also know that some of the housing things that were decided we are expecting to get reimbursed, because some of them, based on the tax credits that the developers will be getting, we could have reimbursable fees from that legal counsel that we are paying for now, but may get on the back end later. So that's another piece that we have built into some of these agreements, or at least those have been some of the agreements we made with the housing work that we are doing. And in my conversation with general counsel that we currently have, the thought that was that we wouldn't have enough work if we had a full-time person here was the comment made. But as you can see, if we take the specialized special ed work plus the general work on our labor law or the different things that we're looking at, we do believe that there's enough work for one person with the acknowledgement for specialized need. What I know that Mr. Tedeschi and I have talked a lot about is tightening our systems and structures for how we go to general counsel and how we actually keep track of all those costs a lot tighter.
And that's, I think, where my question comes from, is if we are going to have that expectation of our in-house general counsel, there's a line that we added, ensures the maintenance of compliance requirements and ethical standards. That's a very general statement. I mean, we have many programs and the IEPs and everything. And so is that the expectation? Because it didn't seem clear from reading this, but my understanding that's the intention. In looking at the factor comparison, thank you for that. I kind of read that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because currently we don't have, other than financial, as far as I know, we do not have an issue with the performance of our current general counsel. So when we're talking about pros and cons, and we say less familiar with district culture, less connected to district values, I know that this is kind of a general comparison. I wouldn't say that is true of the firm that we have a long relationship, and they are very well aware of these. So that didn't sway me as much. There's certainly, having the person in-house, having them at the meetings, and having that access, certainly is true. So again, like I said, I struggle with, I worry a little bit about the lawsuits being brought into our local districts, where places like Carpinteria are looking at possibly going into bankruptcy because of the sexual assault cases. And so I do have a really great concern. Is this cost benefit include the possibility that as we build our institutional knowledge of this in-house person, because we can't assume they have that, they come with that, is this going to cost us more? Is this the right timing if we have to build that person? Is this the right timing to switch to that model? That's just a question I have.
Right, yeah, I had a comment that might impact the specialized special education services. I think an in-house counsel could take us up to a point of handling issues, preparing the issues, getting them to that point. But I think you're right, once it gets past a claim is filed, a lawsuit is filed, then that in-house counsel could potentially hand that off to a specialized attorney as needed. But a lot of the work before that happens to try to prevent that from happening could be done by in-house counsel. Because one in-house counsel, once claims are filed in court and preparing all that, that's a lot of work for one person to do. So I think there would be a time to where the benefit of having in-house counsel get us to a certain point in that, and at that critical step would then be determined of whether it goes to another law firm or something like that when it gets to that point. But capacity, with the potential for lawsuits, like you had mentioned, is real. And again, as we find, or if we even find a person with that capacity, hopefully that they would come with knowledge of that or become something that they address very quickly. And then knowing that point of where, okay, this is beyond the capacity of what we can do in-house, we're going to have to bring someone else on. I don't know if that helps answer.
Yeah, and I do want to add, thank you for bringing the comparison of what's happening in CARP and Montecito and other districts. There is a separate legal counsel that handles those cases for the district. It's called CISC, and those cases actually don't get handled very much by general counsel. There are times when CISC will go to our currently consulted general counsel, not an in-house general counsel, where they might talk about some of the cases, and we get billed for that currently, in addition to the work that CISC is doing. The cases are old, like in Montecito and CARP. So far, we have been able to contact former insurance companies that we have paid in the past and contract for those services. But I don't want, if somebody in the public is listening to this conversation, what is happening there would be handled by a whole completely different group of people that we currently are covered with under our legal insurance.
So would our general counsel not be involved in the initial response at all? It would automatically go to CISC?
Mm-hmm. Those cases go right to CISC. They might talk to general counsel about gathering evidence, or if they're going to do preparing people for deliberations, but it's very minimal contact. It really is handled by CISC.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Ms. Caffrey.
I would just say thank you, Mr. Tedeschi. I thought that was a very clear document and very helpful. My one question is, do you think our general counsel could help us with more preventative work? So preventing some of these lawsuits and doing, I don't know whether we would do an external audit of where we have been having a lot of lawsuits, or would that be the purview of our general counsel? Why we're paying out, and are there procedures we could improve?
Right. I think Dr. Maldonado has mentioned it a few times. One of the big, large benefits is training, and kind of training our administrators and, trying to keep us, from getting to that point where we've exposed ourselves to liability because of something that we didn't do right or do well. And so that having that in-house, that would be more part of the annual update routine for an in-house counsel to be able to continually provide that, and also provide with a phone call from a principal to the in-house person to say, hey, what should I do? This just happened. And so hopefully that kind of direct interaction with another Santa Barbara Unified employee as in-house counsel will help keep us from doing the wrong thing, and just a simple phone call could help save us from some potential liability. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions from the board? So to Dr. Beal's question or point earlier, the genesis of this particular topic came from the preliminary reduction in force decisions that we made back in March, correct? When we were identifying areas that we needed to cut to meet last fiscal year's budget cuts that we had to make. And one of the options was an in-house counsel that would save us money and get us closer to that number that we need. Is that correct, Dr. Manuel?
That's correct. That's been part of our calculations all along, is a way to reduce some of the money is to go with in-house counsel.
And so if we wanted to, upon reflection, if we wanted to change our minds and say that that's not how we wanted to go, the decision would be to deny this job description.
It would be to deny the job description, and we would have to look for another way to continue to save, because we'll add to the 4.2 million that we're looking at.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all a
Yeah.
wash. We've already adopted a budget. Yeah, that would basically end the proposal.
Okay. Does that answer your concern that you had on the outset about, it sounded like there was a little bit of a concern about chicken or the egg type of thing, how
What I said last time is we didn't vote on that part of the cost savings. We did know that we had to save, and we just voted on the reduction in force, how we were going to go about that. The vote wasn't that we are absolutely going to save the money by doing all of these measures. We didn't vote saying that we are definitely getting it in-house. It was proposed as a savings, and I understand that. This is for next year, and we have that 4.2 million. So we do need to find $200,000 or whatever if we don't look for this council. I know it'll take a year. Again, like, we just need to make, just like we're talking about with curriculum, right now we don't have that cost in our budget, but I would like to think as we go through our financial analysis, we have more information about where we're spending our money and how we're spending our money and where we can save money. And if this is a big place to save money, then I'm all on board, but I haven't seen, I guess I feel that, there's the financial analysis we're seeing here, which is very good. There is a bigger question about, whether this person can do all the work that we're asking them to do, and do everything, and is it really going to work? So are we getting what we want for our savings, right? That's a really philosophical question. I don't think anybody can answer that here. It feels like a big change to me.
Yeah. And I think even if we accept that in March we didn't vote on in-house counsel specifically, I think we can treat this item as either a yes, we would like to support in-house counsel, or a no. So a support of the job description is the same as saying, yes, we're going to move forward with in-house counsel, because it's my understanding that once the job description is approved, staff are going to move forward with finding someone for this position. If we say no, then we just have to find savings elsewhere.
And that's my understanding of it. It's really not just a vote on the job description. It's a vote on whether we support this move to having in-house counsel.
Yeah. Ms. Caffrey?
I wonder, not to ask for more data, but to address your question, I wonder, if we can do any benchmarking in terms of our other medium-sized districts. Do they have in-house counsels? Are our legal costs out of line, higher than most districts? And that's why we need, do you see what I mean? I think some of your philosophical questions could actually be answered. Like, at what point do school districts typically get an in-house counsel? At what budget size versus have a contracted counsel? And, are our legal costs in line with a district of our size, or do we need to look at doing an audit and figuring out where we need to change our procedures? I don't know what you think, Trustee Beal.
I think you're asking the same question I'm asking, is are we going above cap because we have such a huge legal need, and can this in-house counsel match that need? Because on top of the work that our general counsel is doing, we're also saying, now we want you to look at IEPs, now we want you to do this, now we want you to do training. Are we asking too much of this person? Are we actually going to end up with a savings? Or are we going to be farming our work out to other firms because there's just too much work? I don't know. I think Board Member Caffrey's suggestion of knowing if other districts have done this and have had savings would make me feel more reassured. Maybe other board members don't need that. It's just, I don't know. I haven't done the research into how many districts have in-house counsel, how large they are, what benefit they've seen. I probably should have done that research, but I was really thinking I'm voting on the job description, but I did bring up the other issues. So I don't know if anybody wants to continue to do this analysis or not, but I've actually expressed my discomfort, so I don't know what else I can say.
Ms. Munoz and then Ms. Caffrey.
Certainly, I just have a comment in terms of looking at this. I think the legal cost benefit analysis was very helpful in terms of just increasing our awareness on the details of what we have spent for our council currently, and then the discussion about how this person can serve the district. And I see it as, it is critical that we save money as a district, right? It would be a way that we could save money, and I see it at least twofold in terms of education, consultation that could be provided by this council, familiarity with so much as like the superintendent and our cabinet and the board, to have this person that we're familiar with and can work with closely to coordinate. And then also as a resource in terms of things that we've seen, that I've seen certainly through the years that have happened sometimes, more than once, as to how can we prevent lawsuits from happening to the district, just in terms of what I mean, like education, and in a matter that we could have some savings that wouldn't affect our students in the classroom, and so I see it as a type of improvement, not to criticize, our current legal counsel, because they've done a great job, but in terms of when I look at like the potential savings and the savings that we can't predict, the intangible savings in terms of preventing issues with, within the school district. So I am favorable of it. Of course, the job description and then the job search, itself. I don't feel personally that I would have to do the research on, other school districts, and that just speak for myself in terms of what, our school district needs and the use of our monies going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. Ms. Caffrey.
I think my comment wasn't, will there be too much work for our general counsel? It was more the question of, are our legal fees in line with other middle-sized districts? That's what I meant. So because if you look at the hourly cost of our general counsel versus a partner at an external firm, it's $175, I think, versus $375. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess for me, the big piece when I think about a general counsel versus a contracted counsel is, can we prevent lawsuits and serve our students and families better if we had an in-house counsel? Can we do more preventative work? And if the answer is yes, then I'm very much for in-house counsel, and I think we would still have access to specialized counsel for issues that are less run-of-the-mill, like very highly specialized. So,
Ms. Munoz.
Yeah, I certainly, you said it very well. I certainly see that potential and would agree with you, Ms. Caffrey.
Mr. Banning.
I think we could spend another day sitting on are we sure? And, you know, if it was as easy as every one of us saying we're sure and then it being right, this would be a much easier seat to sit in. At this point, we have asked, we have had advice from early on that there was a sense that we could save money for this. We've had the analysis on 2 levels from Mr. Tedeschi, and there's probably still some questions. But ultimately, we're hearing the advice of our Chief Fiscal Officer that this is something that he feels has strong potential to be a positive for us. And we're going to have to look at that. If we approve this, I think it's important for us to have regular consideration of how's it working. And know that we aren't making any kind of lifetime decisions here, other than saying we've got plenty of information that tells us that the best people, the people in the room with the most to know about it, believe it's got a great chance of succeeding.
Any other comments? I support it. I think that there are many reasons. I think building capacity is really compelling for me. I think having someone to do general in-house counsel, general legal counsel work for a cheaper price is quite compelling. I think trusting someone with a legal expertise to know when we need to pass things off to a specialized lawyer or law firm is also quite beneficial versus a layperson like myself. I'm referring based on kind of past experiences, but also a little bit of a speculation and maybe not current case law and statutes. I also want ongoing reports in future budgets as we're developing budgets, like what are our legal expenses? Are we actually saving money? I believe this position is at will, and so it's contract, which is at will. So if in the future we find that we're not saving money and we actually are spending more because we have this salary and we're still referring out to law firms because we have so many specialized needs that this general in-house counsel can't serve, then I think that provides us an outlet to revert back to what we're doing now. Mr. Tedeschi pointed out, I think, a really compelling point that a general legal counsel can actually do some of the work that we would have referred out to a more expensive law firm in preparation and collecting and supervising collection of evidence and everything that gets you up to the point where referral is needed. I think there are a lot of benefits to this. I think having access to someone for legal questions is really important. I think the board, even in like board meetings and board settings like this, having access to legal counsel for our legal questions is really, really helpful. From everything from the Brown Act or when we're talking about really specialized topics like SPED that are quite legally difficult at times when we're asking these questions. So I think there are a lot of benefits. I'm going to support it. But this would be the opportunity that if as a board we didn't want to go this route, that we would deny it. So with that, I will entertain a motion if someone wants to make a motion. Ms. Munoz.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the job description for an in-house general counsel.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Dr. Beal. So we have 4-1 with Dr. Beal in opposition. That will close this item out. Mr. Tedeschi, I know that this was a lot of work, but you did an excellent job, and I just wanted to express gratitude. Okay, that takes us to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that we would like to pull? Dr. Maldonado?
I don't want to pull an item, but I want to just call your attention to item G6, which is the educational service contract bundle, and that is where you'll find the $52,000 investment in letters training.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else, so can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent
Oh.
agenda.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
you can make the motion. Go ahead and make the motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Do we have any comment on the motion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. And with that, that takes us to coming events, and we have, you can find that on your agenda, and we have future agenda items. Mr. Banning, did you want to talk about this?
Sandra has some information for us.
In your packet, these are materials for Saturday, August 16th. And there's a draft agenda for the day where we're going to talk about governance models. We're going to start the day with looking over and discussing our current governance framework that we have and looking over our governance handbook. There will be some homework on that piece that I will send out, where each board member is going to be asked to do what's called a SOAR analysis. It's strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And we'll send a little bit of information about that. But we're all expected to show up with some sort of background on our current governance framework. So it's a little bit of reading that we'll have to do ahead of time. And then there's going to be a section where we're going to hear from a couple of other organizations who work on governance work that we've heard Ms. Caffrey talk about and has come up in discussion. And there will also be a little bit of reading on those, but they will be presenting. We'll have some opportunities for questions and answers, and followed by a working lunch and just discussion about all of the frameworks, current and the ones that are being presented, to talk about what is the next step. Do we want to adopt a model, pilot one, or just refine our current practices? And we have some factors for decision making that are on the agenda, followed by a small portion of the agenda just talking about strategic plan and whether that is something we want to pursue, research, bring options, but we do need some direction from the board, like official direction, about what the next steps would be on if we want to pursue a strategic plan. And then just finishing out the day with just a recap about the day and making sure that we're all clear on what the next steps are. You can see on the final couple pages of the agenda, you have some worksheets and note-taking tools for the meeting as we review our current framework and the frameworks from the Empowered Governance Framework and the Effective School Boards Framework. Any questions? I'm just actually giving you information, sorry. We can't discuss it. But if you have any process questions, the meeting will take place here, August 16th. I believe the day's 9 to 3:30 or 8:30 to 3:30. Did I miss anything, Mr. Banning?
Other than the additional material that's in the packet.
Yep, we have additional reading material in the packet. Okay, so with that, we will call this meeting to.
I do want to invite the board. August 15th, the day before, is our Welcome Back to All Staff event at the Arlington Theater from 8 to 10 a.m. Please let me know if you're going to attend. We could send you more details later. There's also a new teacher professional development day that's coming up for new teachers. You're invited to all of these events. I'll make sure that Sandra and I get out. So many things are happening next week in preparation of launching the school year. You're all invited to come and see all the great levels of welcome back to people. And, you know, we're really excited to kick off the 25-26 school year next Friday already.
All right.
Thank you.
Ready or not? We will close this meeting at 8:40. Everyone have a good night. Don't get used to this early